way where there's character development, story development, and it actually builds upon the last 6 films, which they have tons of source material on. But according to the head of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, there is no source material. They don't have comic books and books. These people are insane. I don't think any of them have ever really even watched Star Wars, and if they have, it's been like in passing, maybe with like 10 glasses of wine, and they don't even know what the hell is going on. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I work for this company now. I'm continuing these stories." So I guess George Lucas cultivated a amount of racist, misogynistic people that are Star Wars fans that Disney decided would be a great idea to purchase, and therefore then create the main character being a female. Sounds really smart. I think actually what happened, which is much more realistic, is that it was just a really horribly written character that people did not like, and they did not care if it was a man or a woman. But the fact that it was a woman, you're going to take the comments from misogynists that are out there and people who just hate women anyways. I don't know, maybe they weren't loved by their mother, or maybe like someone broke their heart. That's their fucking problem, and I don't really care. I'm not here to play Sigmund Freud for that. But you're taking that and you are washing every single Star Wars fan who is such a fun-loving, kind, sweet, and passionate fandom, and making them seem as if they just are responsible for everything wrong with Star Wars today. We are the consumers. We are Star Wars fans. We just want to be told a good story. We just want to go to a galaxy far, far away. We don't care what gender you are, what color your skin is. We just want a good story. If you can give us that, I guarantee you're going to see reviews and money like you've never seen before. Just like The Mandalorian, just like Ahsoka, which, to be honest, the last 2 episodes were pretty shit, but it still did well because Ahsoka is a very, very popular character. And guess what? She's a girl. Oh no, I guess every man hates... No, just Rey. Just Daisy Ridley. Hey, Daisy, go enjoy the new $12 million contract that you've been given on all the people who you don't pay attention to, because apparently they all just hate women. And enjoy the next few years of whatever is going to be thrown at your character, depending on that writer, Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, actually giving a shit about Star Wars, or is she going to try and fulfill some agenda dream that she has at night? I don't really know, but I guess time will tell. I'm so sick and tired of these goddamn C-list actors coming out of the woodwork after they've made millions and millions of dollars on George's IP, this franchise that we all love, where we can't just sit there and watch it and judge it fairly. We have to be told that we're freaking misogynists or racists or sexist or alt-right or whatever
Or
it
maybe
might
Ray
be.
was a shitty
Bigots, I
character.
don't
That's
know.
exactly what he's saying, bro. I love Star Wars theory. He's like the most down to
Name
earth
it, man.
motherfucker I've
How about
ever
it's
met.
just a
Well,
shit
not
character
met,
and a
but
shit
like
story? I'm so tired of this,
he's
dude.
so down to
These
earth,
people are
bro.
absolutely insane, and every time they keep saying this shit, we need to just call them out respectfully and say, hey, look, you are wrong. We are just judging media. We are judging the story. Everybody loved Leia. Everybody loved Padme. Everybody loved Bastila Shan, Ahsoka, all these other female characters out there that are within Star Wars. Dodge Ventress. You don't see anybody complaining about these characters. I guess it applies to Daisy Ridley. Maybe you just have a really garbage character that's been written. Maybe you just have people that don't actually understand Star Wars, like Leslie Headland, like Kathleen Kennedy. These people who don't know the first thing about what it takes to make a compelling character that the audience can identify with are now running around saying, oh, it's not our fault. We're super imaginative and creative. We know exactly what we're doing. It's you, the audience. You must be racist and misogynistic. Well, that's freaking easy. Anyways, on another news, we raised over $13,150, which is great, to St. Jude's, so that's awesome. You guys can...
What's up? About to rip a toke here in a second. Ahsoka was terrible. Yeah.
B. There you go. There you go. About to rip a toke, but I don't seem to have any oil out right now, so there we go. Open this up. Ahsoka sucked as well. Anytime, dude. Oh. Oh. I was trying to help this guy out and he left. No way, DM for OnlyFans is on. Holy shit. Logged out. No, they just logged out. Oh my goodness, DM for OnlyFans. I haven't fucking talked to that person in 6 years. Holy shit. Yeah, it did though. Slow pace. Ahsoka is a pussy. Her Padawan, all her ass. No one cares. Yo, Ahsoka. Quite honestly, the only reason Ahsoka is even popular is because all of these virgin ass fucking nerd losers. Let's just be honest. All these virgin nerd losers seeing Ahsoka and they started drooling at the mouth. They're like, "Oh my god." Oh my. Oh my god, look at her. She's so hot. Blah. You know what I mean? All these little loser ass nerds just seeing some thin fucking little like, character that could like do some flips and they're like, oh my god. That's why she's so popular. I mean, also being Anakin's Padawan helps, but should we rip a toke? Just a better character animated, 100%. She's definitely that's something people don't understand too. A lot of animated characters don't translate to the big screen that well. You know what I mean? And it's not even like a few, it's like a lot. You know what I mean?
Can you share an interesting story about yourself?
Sure, I have one about persistence. There was a time when I was quite poor.
Bro, that guy had AI talking over his voice. That's hilarious. That guy got recorded and they put AI over his fucking over his speech. Or the dude from The Force Awakens, like in the very beginning of The Force Awakens, the guy that's like giving Poe or whatever his name is, like the object. I gotta go take a piss. Then we're fucking gonna kill Vorkath. Then he's the dude from Jedi. Oh, Cal Kestis. What's his name? I can't remember the guy's name in real life, but Cal Kestis. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
But you misogynist pig, they're all men.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. I had a chance to see Joker 2 this
Why
week in
can't we
my
have a
review,
woman
and
in
it's
Star
absolutely
Wars?
not
Like, oh
what
my
any of
God.
you are expecting from a sequel to that first movie. There's so much to say. It's going to go down as one of the more controversial DC movies in the last several years for a couple reasons. Mostly that the sequel is such a radical departure from that first movie and totally not what you're expecting from a DC movie. Mostly in a negative context, but there are some good things to say about the movie. Like, there's some good things in there, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We're in the middle of the Batman Penguin episodes, not connected to Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. This is still firmly meant to exist in its separate universe from the first movie. More on that later in the video, because one of the other more controversial things about this movie, and probably the thing that most people will be talking about this weekend, was the ending. Like, there's a lot to talk about the movie in general, but most people will probably just be talking about the ending. Even though this movie is meant to be a direct sequel to the last movie, the vibe is completely different from that first movie. It's almost like he wanted to make another movie with the characters, but not really make a sequel to the first movie, just something set in the same universe with the same characters. Like, can we do something that's a completely different genre, that's not necessarily a sequel, but kind of a sequel at the same time? So let me ask you, first big thing, if you're going into this movie, how do you feel about jukebox musicals or just musicals in general? If you are a huge fan of them, like if you love musicals, you're a huge fan of the music of Lady Gaga, her performances, you will probably enjoy this movie a lot. But if you're a more core DC Comics fan, like you're a traditional Batman fan, you're going into this movie expecting to see something more traditional inside the universe that's meant to follow the natural evolution of what happens after the events of the first movie, more in the tone of the first movie. Maybe you were just interested to see what the future of that Joker character was going to be, how he grew, what kind of Batman lore we would see in the universe in the future, then you will be sorely disappointed in this film, and your day will be immeasurably ruined. You will find none of that stuff going on in this new movie. Now, it's not quite as over-the-top and unhinged as Megalopolis is. There's a lot of discussion going on about that now, too, just because of screenings. It's a totally separate movie, not connected to the Joker, but also just one of these really wild films, and you wonder how it got made in the first place. Like, what is going on here? In one of those movies like Joker 2 that a small subset of people will really love, but most people will be kind of negative about. Like, what? What is going on? Like I said, you could barely call this movie
movies nowadays are all about
the same
money
character
laundering.
after the events of the first movie, dealing with the consequences of what he did, but it's more of a psychological exploration of the character through a lot of music, singing, dancing, performances, big musical set pieces that you all saw in the trailers. You could even call this movie more of a musical crossed with a courtroom drama, because so much of the movie takes place in that actual courtroom you see in the trailers where Joker's facing trial over the events of the first movie. Without getting into any spoilers, just because it's early before the movies come out, the ending felt like it was written by some random unhinged Twitter user or like some crazy Reddit user that's online way too much. Like, if you've ever dipped into the replies to Hugh Jackman or Ryan Reynolds' Twitter posts, and you see like the crazy things that people post, it's almost like they borrowed some of the ideas for the ending from those people. So yes, we will be talking a lot about that this weekend, for bad and for good. Like, wow, it was really amazing that they tried something like that, but what were they thinking? Probably the best thing I can say about it is in how unexpected it was. So if you are looking forward to like a crazy twist, yes, crazy twist, but overall I feel like the reaction is going to be negative. I would have rather seen Joaquin Phoenix's character evolve into more of a comic book-like Joker character. But that's me. I'm more of a traditional DC Comics-rated fan. I go to DC movies expecting something more in the tone of what you would think of when you think of DC movies. There are a couple good things about the movie that we can point out. Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix do a great job of exploring who Arthur is, what he thinks he is, what he thinks of himself, him trying to own his own weirdness as the Joker identity, which he was ashamed of throughout the first movie. Everyone remembers all the "we live in a society" memes. This movie takes that meme and tries to turn it into like a bigger statement in the way that the first movie did. Joker being Joker and loving it, having been made that way because society made him like that.
Everybody is awful these days. It's enough to make anyone crazy.
He is entirely a product of the society of the Gotham City of this universe. The problem with that is that it feels like a bit of a rehash of the themes of the first movie. Like the first movie
You don't
established
say.
that pretty successfully. Lady Gaga gives great performances. She wrote a whole album based on the movie called Harlequin. She carries
she
most of
did.
the musical numbers that they do together, as you would expect. So if you like her music, you will enjoy that aspect of the movie. For those of you worried that Lady Gaga would have taken over the movie, pulling the story away from Joker, the actual main character, that didn't really happen. The way they cut the movie down, she's not nearly in this movie as much as you would think from the actual trailers. She barely has anything to do outside of the big musical numbers. They wound up cutting a lot of her scenes from the trailers. That happens in all big movies where you see a ton of trailer scenes that don't wind up in the actual movie. We can talk more about those during my Easter eggs video. Joaquin Phoenix has
that
performed
shit's like
before.
false
If you didn't see him
advertising.
in Walk the Line, he played Johnny Cash in a biopic based on his life. He was great during that. But when it comes to big sweeping
Bro, I don't even think I'm
musical
gonna play
numbers like you
Apex
see in the
today,
trailers
honestly. I
they
just
do
don't
in this
feel like
movie,
playing.
he admittedly wasn't nearly up to the same task
I ain't
as
gonna
Lady
lie.
Gaga, so she does carry a lot of that stuff in the film. But I think that Todd Phillips did a good job of directing them in those performances so that you didn't notice his weaknesses there quite as much. Probably one of the biggest criticisms that's going to be laid on the movie is in how much it tries to avoid any of the notable comic book connections or the truth of a lot of the characters from the comics. There are some Batman-related comic book references and references to the characters that they are portraying, but only occasionally. And for most of the movie, you have to think of it as more of like a musical where there are characters that are just borrowing the names from the Batman comics. For instance, Todd Phillips infamously did an interview before the movie came out explaining that their Lady Gaga version of Harley Quinn would be absolutely nothing like the comics. Like, you remember all that stuff you love about Harley Quinn from the comics? Now, we're not doing any of that. A really good comparison to make would be like Margot Robbie's version of Harley Quinn. She tries to be very true to the tone of the comic book version of the character.
What are you guys doing?
We're here to save you.
Well, I can go back inside and you can still do it.
Lady Gaga's version is the complete opposite of that. That's why her name in the movie is Lee and Joker's name is actually Arthur. So if you're going into this movie and you were disappointed that the first movie only lightly referenced Batman or those comics, you were expecting more Batman-related stuff, the sequel goes even further away from the comics for most of the movie, with a very bizarre choice for the ending. I'll wait till later this weekend after everyone has a chance to see it before we start talking about it more. So if you do get a chance to see the movie early, please don't post spoilers for that on this video. It's almost like Todd Phillips took the freedom and the massive increase in budget that the studio gave him after the success of the first Joker movie made over $1 billion. Then he turned around and gave the studio a huge middle finger, like he really wanted to stick it to Warner Brothers. Totally not caring about doing the traditional sequel that Warner Brothers probably wanted him to do. Like, could you make another movie just like the first movie? And he's like, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna do that. Instead, he's going to do the most unconventional, unexpected, and possibly disliked thing with the franchise, this particular Joker franchise of Joaquin Phoenix's character. The only thing I've heard him say about turning the movie into more of a musical is that he felt like music was very important to the exploration of Arthur in his own mind, the way he thinks of himself. But you have to hand it to Todd Phillips. He's at this point in his career where he's got enough success and more money that he'll ever be able to spend that he can basically give a middle finger to the studio. And it seems like he actually doesn't really care about the traditional fan base for a lot of this stuff, like the DC Comics fan base or audiences with the franchise of the first movie. Even though the movie's going to get clowned on a lot, I don't think he was trying to piss off people on purpose. Not for the pure sake of pissing people off. I think he just doesn't care if he makes people mad or disappoints people who are expecting something different from the Joker movies, like something more akin to what you expect from a traditional Joker comic book. The movie does leave room for a future Harley Quinn sequel about Lady Gaga's version in this universe, potentially doing similar treatments for other Batman characters in this universe, but not Batman himself. Like, please do not do a musical with the Batman character. So if you really dig how this movie is so different from what people usually expect from, say, like Batman movies or just DC movies in general, then maybe you'll be excited to see more inside this universe. But personally, I am totally fine with this being the last movie that Todd Haynes does in the DC
It's such an
universe.
unnecessary
And
movie,
I
I
will say,
felt.
after seeing it, I would have been totally okay if he had stopped after that first movie and not done the sequel. Like, there were a lot of people who did not want them to make a sequel to begin with.
I
After
didn't
the
even
first movie
like the
came out, they're
first
like,
movie
great,
that
this
much,
is
honestly.
awesome. No more, please. You said everything that you need to say about this
I don't
character
even think
with
I'm
this
killing this
one
fucking
movie.
guy here.
Like I said, a lot of the themes in this
You know, we're
movie
just gonna
are
teleport
rehashes
out.
of the themes of the first movie. But just to say some more positive things about it, the actual music, the soundtrack,
No clue,
musical
man.
numbers were all great. I don't watch a ton of musicals,
clue who
but I
that
was
is,
able to
Jay-Ski?
appreciate their performances. Visually, the movie does look great. Like, the cinematography is amazing, and their set pieces look great. And even if you don't like the story, all the actors' performances were S tier. I think most of the criticism about the actual characters will be about the way Todd Phillips wrote them. And to be fair, he is a great director. It's just that as a DC movie fan, like, I make a lot of DC videos because I like DC Comics related things, you probably would have expected him to make something more akin to what a DC Comics movie usually winds up being. My early prediction is that the movie will do about $700 million maybe, give or take a little bit, but it's not going to make anywhere near as much money as the first movie. Like, it will not make $1 billion. Especially after all the hardcore fans see it opening weekend that loved the first movie and then blast it online, hurting word of mouth, expecting it to be more like the first film when it is totally not like the first film. Once you do have a chance to see it, post all your reactions in the comments below, good or bad.
Correct.
My video about the ending for the movie will post later this week after it actually comes out. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. There's a bunch of other stuff happening this week.
This guy?
At
Want me to watch
Chewy,
him
keep their
slam
bowls
some
full
dudes?
with fast and free delivery.
He's not even there right now, sadly.
Yes, I just did something unforgivable, but you brought her here.
We are back for episode 5 of The Acolyte, which means we are past halfway of the series. And that's for good, because no matter how hard the fans of this show stamp their feet, it's never coming back. But let's be honest, I'm stamping my feet along with them.
The fuck? This guy's doing a review of the series out like months after. I thought it was just a video shitting on it. I was like, I'm always down to watch a video just shitting on The Acolyte.
Okay, so today was the Back to Hogwarts yearly event that is put on by Warner Brothers and pretty much just the people behind the franchise. And a lot of us were expecting some pretty big gaming news. Obviously, Quidditch Champions is, I want to say, out now, or it's about to be out. People are playing the game. Obviously, there is a big sale on pretty much all Harry Potter stuff right now because of the event, including Hogwarts Legacy. I think on Steam it was like 40% off. I think I saw it for like $17.99, so more than 40 really. There's been a rumored director's edition pretty much for Hogwarts Legacy, and a lot of people were like very much hoping that there was going to be some new DLC or updates for the game. And for myself, I kind of knew that the only thing I could expect was some sort of mobile game announcement, because I feel like nowadays at every single one of these yearly events for really any franchise, there's always some sort of mobile game tie-in creation. But there was also a rumor a little bit ago about how there was essentially going to be a new Lego game for the franchise, something very similar to the newest Lego Star Wars game that was released, that kind of took the Lego spin a different way, made it more like a third-person shooter than a old-fashioned Lego game. And I was kind of in the camp where I didn't know if we were going to be getting basically a remake slash remaster, or if we were going to be getting like a whole new type of Lego game. So today, Lego and Warner Brothers announced that the Lego Harry Potter collection is coming to modern platforms. Now, if you don't know, there are 2 Lego Harry Potter games in this, the parts 1 through 4 and then 5 through 8. I want to say that's what the split is. I don't know, I've only ever owned the collection, so I've bought both games like twice. But this is essentially the collection that was released a couple years back for the Switch and for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, I want to say is when it was released for, but now they're just kind of bringing it up to modern consoles. Now again, this is a little bit of a weird one for me because I'm pretty sure you can already play the older, I guess, collection of these two games on modern consoles. Like, I'm pretty sure you can already play them on PlayStation 5 if you own like the PlayStation 4 version. That might be wrong. I feel like I've seen people say that, but I'm not going to confirm it because I don't own them on my PlayStation 5. But it is coming to Steam, so that's good. I guess PC players are going to be able to play. Wait, didn't they already play? Weren't you able to buy the other one on PC already? Yeah, in 2016, TT Games bundled both titles into the complete collection and released it for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Okay, so this is pretty much a useless announcement, I guess. Okay, it's not useless. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that like this. It's going to essentially be the Lego Harry Potter collection, and it's going to release digitally across PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series S and X consoles on October 8th.
But the thing is, like, are they going to put any new content into
now,
the game?
the studio Double 11 has been given the duty to make these games. These games are beloved by a lot of people, and they're saying it's going to have native 4K resolution, running at 60 FPS, and all of the content and all of the previous DLC content will be in this collection. Now, I can see them also giving away some characters because I believe in the first collection, you got the founding Hogwarts people, like the people that founded the houses. I think you got those. So yeah, so essentially what we're getting in this collection is 60 FPS, native 4K resolution,
60 FPS,
haptic feedback, improved textures and shadows, whatever that means, because from what I can tell, it doesn't look that improved, but these are all just like screenshots I'm looking at on game.
Bro, that's insane, man. That's the biggest scam going right there. Fucking do that. That's insane. That's nuts.
Score the best deal with the FC25 promo set. Add a random key to your
the 20 squads playing today.
You know what, Jay? You want to play some Apex? You want to play some Pegs, bro? I'm down to play some Pegs. Let me finish killing Vorkath here. Play some Pegs with your boo-boo. Time is it? Amber gets out of school. 3 o'clock. And Chris Allen went out and ran some shorty? Oh, okay, cool. I felt bad because you were just sitting here chilling in my chat and I was like, she. Alright. So long as you're doing something. I'm chilling then. Alright, brother. Respect. Much respect. That's what I'm talking about. Don't want to use up your Apex time, bro. I'm gonna be pissed. Ah, fuck, whatever. My Apex, how much you mean? I'd be playing Apex always. What are these accusations? Bro, last night was like, damn, Canada's shooting, just beaming teams left and right. I was actually beaming yesterday. Low key, I was fucking just not missing. I mean, I was, but I was definitely shooting some nukes. Bro, those cinnamon buns right there, what the fuck? Look at these cinnamon buns. What the fuck? Those look elite. Top tier. Oh, dude, what the fuck?
So I recently matched with this girl on this dating site. You know, she's very cute. She might be a little bit heavier set, not like super like.
Okay.
You know, she's just short, but she got like really nice hair knockers on her. And shit like
Oh,
that.
this is
Anyway,
unnecessary, but that's awesome. She
She
sounds
has
hot.
a 4-year-old son, so I'm like, all right, cool. You know, we all got things.
Totally
we all got our
unnecessary.
crosses to bear type shit.
Sure.
And I'm talking to her, and I'm
Yeah, a child, a human being.
This guy's perspective on children is terrible.
It's awesome. It's like, yeah, I got this girl, a little thick, kind of fatter than I like, but huge tits. Has an annoying fucking son, but hey, some people are born without their fucking, you know, right foot, so whatever. All right, let's
Anyway,
see.
She has a 4-year-old son, so I'm like, all right, cool. You know, we all got things. You know, we all got our crosses to bear type shit.
Like me, I don't pay my taxes. Me.
And I'm talking to her, and I really want to just smash her and then call it a day. You know what I mean? Because she got some really nice pair of knockers and pretty decent ass. But then, you know, over the course of talking, because we haven't even met yet.
What?
Because we like barely met like last week. She's talking about she wants a relationship, and then in the future she would hopefully want a relationship, and not even with me. You know, we're just kind of discussing in intentions and things like that.
That's awesome.
So then I pretty much just told her what she wanted to hear. How do I go about like smashing her a few times, but like still not applying for that stepfather role? And
Come on,
not, like, I don't know, like not getting in too deep. You know, I'd really appreciate it.
Come on, you piece of shit.
I love this guy.
You know what you think?
Hey man, this woman made it so clear what she wants out of a relationship. She communicated with me like an adult. How do I?
I've been lying to her, but what else can I do?
Yeah, lying's good, but it's not enough.
I haven't had sex with her. I don't know how much lying I'm gonna need to do to get there. And then how do I get out of it? Because I've obviously been lying to someone.
I mean, what does he even want? I don't understand. Because he's just doing what's necessary. He's lying and manipulating a woman to fuck her. Which we are against, by the way. We don't think you should do that. You clearly just want to fuck this woman. She said what she's into. It's not what you're interested in. Don't fuck this lady unless you do have a change of heart and are going into it being like, you know, maybe I do want this. You clearly don't. You don't want a relationship. You don't want to be you said stepfather, which, by the way, she seems so much more mature than him. Is she even asking for that? Or is she just like, I want to date with the intention of a relationship? She seems like the kind of person who wouldn't want you to even meet her kid until it was even more serious than this. You know what I mean? Like, don't do this, man.
Unless you want to stalk her for 20 years.
And she would actually be well within her rights. Well, no, stalking, you're not within your rights, but, you know, she would be within her rights to be pissed off at you and want to get back at you. But
This sounds like the missing part from the first call.
it does a little bit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, dude. What even do you want out of us? What advice do you want? You said you told her what you wanted to hear. In general, I will say that is not good advice. No, now look. Am I going to sit here and tell you that as a younger man I haven't done similar things? No, I'm not going to do that. Okay? But I don't know how old this guy is. Part of maturing is like, it's also like, what are you going to do? You're going to fucking, let's say you have sex with her. The second you nut, you're going to feel bad. She's going to feel attached. You're going to feel guilty. It's going to be messy. What's even the point here, dude? Get out of here. Date somebody who wants what you want. Especially someone who made it so clear what they're looking for as a relationship.
Wants a pocket pussy.
It's just not going to feel good after you fuck her. There's nothing good. Nothing positive will come from this. Trust me. Yeah, not worth it, man.
Yeah. So you're going to have sex. The kid's going to jump in the bed.
He's going to get in there. He's going to be like, do you like Transformers?
Yeah.
I'm Megatron. My favorite's Megatron. Who's yours?
You're going to have to look in this kid's eye and be like, I'm lying to your mother.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I'm just trying to fuck your mom. She has big-ass tits. Get off my dick, kid. I'm not going to be around. I'm going to get 2-3 more nuts off Max. I'm going to leave before Christmas. I ain't buying you fucking shit. Don't get your heart set on a fucking other toy just because I nutted in your mom a couple times.
He's saying this and she can hear it.
Yeah.
She's like, you're right next to me. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry, honey. So anyway, your options are don't date her and keep lying to her, or do it, feel bad, get guilty, and like deal with the fallout. I say don't deal. We don't have some mythical third way where you get to fuck her and not feel bad, right? Doesn't exist.
Right.
So those are your options. We suggest don't fuck her. Next,
or, say you want something casual and she'll say no.
Right. Yeah, that's
Most
actually
likely.
that actually is the
Right?
mature thing. Because who knows?
Yeah.
She made her intentions clear, but she might be willing to settle. I mean, probably not. You're so dumb. You're clearly dumb as shit.
Okay, next up, let's go to Heartbroken.
Uh-oh, Heartbroken.
Heartbroken, are you there?
What up, man?
What's up, brother?
Oh, what's up,
Do you have questions about your wedding or something, Heartbroken?
No. I have a very peculiar situation here.
Hit us with it.
So, I met this girl 3 years ago, and she was a single mother of 2, and we got really close for a year.
Yo, this sounds like
really
my
good, close
fucking
friends.
buddy.
And then we
Oh my
got even
God.
closer. We're exclusively fucking for 8 months.
Okay.
And everything was sweet. Everything was great. Everything was great until we added a title to the situation. And we were dating for the last year.
Bro, this sounds exactly like my buddy. I'm not even joking.
Okay, keep going. So you were fucking for 8 months.
Yeah.
And you didn't live together? You lived in separate places?
Separate places.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. Hooking up for 8 months, and then in kind of an organic way, and then for a year you were like we're boyfriend girlfriend now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everything was cool for a while. I caught her cheating on me twice in
first
that
time would've
year.
been kicked to the
I took her
curb.
back both times. Because again, the kids, they're all I know. It was like it was okay, I guess.
You're a good guy because citing the kids as a reason to take her back means you're a good person. Because other people will be like, bitch, you have kids. You think I'm fucking putting up with you sucking dick on the side? But you're like, these kids, I'm worried about them. You're toast. You're too nice of a human being, man. Anyway, tell us how it goes. Fill us in. Give us all of it.
All right.
This
so,
guy's so nervous.
last
You hear him?
month,
He's like, he's so nervous. I feel bad for this fucking guy. Holy shit. What the fuck? I genuinely feel bad for this fucking guy. He's nervous as a motherfucker.
Took a charge, a felony charge, for dabs in the state of South Dakota.
Oh, I've
my
listened to this
God,
before.
what a fucking ridiculous place.
I
Fuck the
know.
Dakotas.
And I took it and I stopped her from catching the charge herself because again, the kids.
Oh my God, dude, you're a fucking idiot. They were her dabs, or were they both of your dabs?
They were both of our dabs.
Okay, all right. That's a little better. That's a little better. It should only have been one of you. That's fair.
No, they're all mine. It's all mine. Everything's mine. They're like, you sure? I was like, yeah, everything's mine.
No, that's better because they would have just gotten both of you for the same exact charge.
Yeah.
This guy's this kid's crying.
Left me 4 days later.
Damn.
And she's like, I want to take a break. I want to take a break because, you know, the stipulation we got evicted from our place was that her parents were going to take her in. She had to leave me.
What?
So she's like, yeah.
How old
don't
are
like me
you
'cause I'm
both,
brown.
by the way?
They don't like me because I'm brown.
I see. How old are you guys? How old are you guys?
Don't like me because
I'm 27 and she's 24.
I see. Okay. Damn.
And so they took her back, and we took a break, you know, or so I thought. So for 2 weeks, she's telling me, you know, that she really wants to be with me, she misses me,
He's
blah,
out
blah,
there
blah.
just getting dick down
and
on
she's
the
like
side.
hitting me up for every problem that she has, and I'm there for her, of course, stupidly. And I get screenshots from one of my buddies, and she was on Tinder day one of us,
Yeah, of
and
course, dude.
I was like, holy shit. So I hit her up, and she's leaving me on scene, like crazy about this situation.
Yeah.
So I do what any guy in my position would do, and I signed into her social media.
Oh
and
no,
what the fuck?
Dude.
I'm gonna dumb down the number because I don't want to make her look bad. But between 15 dudes, she's sending them all the same shit, all the same nudes, and I fucking lost my shit.
Yeah.
I was just kind of
Just think
looking
of
for
all
some
the
ancient
other
Greek
dudes she was doing this the
wisdom
whole time you're
on
dating,
what do I
right?
do with this?
What do you
because,
do? What are you talking? Congratulations, you don't have to be a stepfather at 27 anymore. You're single, find a good fucking dabs attorney, start your life over, bro. There's no what do you do? What are you fucking talking about? What do you do?
It's just, I miss her regardless
Yeah, dude,
of everything.
that's how it works. That's how that works. It's gonna suck, but like, come on, man. I mean, really think about what you just told us and the fact, like, hey, man, this fucking girl who's, this, like, you know, she whatever. This young single mother of.
Let's see how much we got here from this trip. We're at 497 KC, so we're almost at 500 KC. Let's see how much we got from this trip. Should be a good one. We got some dragon pieces. Oh, bro, it'd be over a mil. It's over a mil for sure. We got an over a mil trip right there, boys. That's huge, man. A millie going straight to the bazank. Yo, Sean, I agree with that, man. And the women don't care where you've been. I feel that, brother.
Two, whose parents don't like me, who I took a drug charge for, who has cheated on me multiple times, asked to take a break, and has been sending nudes to 40 men and on Tinder. What do you think I should do about that? There's not even a question here, buddy. What else do you want? The world has made the decision for you, right? She's immature. She's going to string you along. She'll try and take advantage of you in any way that she can if you're going to let yourself do that. She doesn't give a fuck. She's so out. She couldn't be more out.
She's like, damn, I can get away with this too. It's like, damn, he'll take a charge. Damn,
He'll do
I can
whatever
fuck around and I can come back.
Right. And so your challenge here is completely cut her out of your life. And by the way,
I blocked her.
Huh?
I blocked her on everything.
More than that. We've done the initial block, and then a week later, we're creating new fucking Instagram accounts. We're creating a fake like bunny page to be like Mr. Hops, the little influencer, and it's like just to see what the fuck she's up to. You gotta bro. You're in a tough spot here because I'm gonna guess you must either not gotten that much pussy before, or she had incredible pussy or something. She seems insane. 2 kids, kind of young, completely unstable. She probably sucked dick out of control. If I had to guess,
you're spot on, man.
I know. You know, I'm an observer. I'm a keen observer of human nature, and you're fucked, bro. You're fucked. You gotta stay completely away. There is no conversation. There's no nothing. You have to keep your distance. I would say try and date, you know what I mean? Just so that when she comes back to try and take advantage of you in some way, I don't know what that is right now, that you don't let that happen. You're a weak man, I can tell. You're going to let her do it, so I say get a different girlfriend.
You're a weak man. That's like the biggest insult ever.
So that
You're so
you
weak,
just
man.
aren't tempted to go back to this girl. You can't, dude. You got to be completely out of here, bro.
You're not gonna win with her, man.
There's no positive outcome here for you. Zero.
Yeah, I felt like that was the problem.
Yeah.
I think I needed to hear it from someone else.
Yeah, you definitely did.
You can't win. You're not gonna miraculously find peace in this relationship with her ever.
No, and she might at some point stop being a dumb bitch, but it will not be with you. It will not be with you. That's not how people work, bro. I'm sorry. So yeah, start fresh and listen. Call us back when you get other pussy.
All right, man.
Okay, that's your homework assignment. Fuck someone
I'll
else.
update you on that. I'll update you on that.
All right, dude. Good luck.
man,
Sorry
thank
that
you.
happened, brother.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
brother.
guys.
Damn,
might
dude.
be heartbroken.
Aiming for a solid 13. To... All right, let's see. We gotta put something on here, boys.
Being referred to a realtor by friends or family is great if you don't mind missing out on top dollar and selling as quickly as possible.
I looked at the comments.
On October 5th, 2022, a man wearing a surgical mask and a baseball cap entered the John W. Harshberger building at the University of Arizona armed with a handgun. The gunman traveled to campus that day with 4 targets in mind. He found one. Before fleeing the bloody scene and heading for Mexico, the gunman had let loose inside the building, threatening the lives of everyone present and killing one, a beloved professor.
At least I fulfilled my mission.
Hi there, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case is disturbing. One of the most unsettling aspects of the story is how many people were not the least bit surprised that the circumstances culminated in this terrifying and tragic incident. The person least shocked by the murder was the victim himself. Let's take a look.
It was the victim himself, isn't he dead?
The University of Arizona's main campus sits on over 350 acres of land in Tucson. The university is staffed by over 500 professors, teaching over 40,000 undergraduates and 10,000 graduate students. The afternoon of Wednesday, October 5th, 2022, was in many ways a standard day on campus. The fall semester was in full swing, and the Arizona sun was providing beautiful weather. The department, staffed with self-proclaimed weather nerds, the Hydrology and Atmospheric Sciences Department, is located in the John W. Harshberger building. At just before 2 p.m. that October day, physical scientist Kayla McCauley was in the building when she spotted an individual whom she knew was banned from campus. The masked figure was walking the hallway and looking in the offices. Thinking quickly, Kayla, along with Associate Professor Martha Whitaker, locked themselves into a neighboring office, turned off the lights, and hid under a desk. Then Dr. Whitaker called 911.
Yeah, 911. Hi, my name is Martha Whitaker. I'm in the Harshberger building. There has been a report of someone who has been expelled who was in our building. His name is Vorkath Dervish.
Police were dispatched to the building at 2:04 p.m. But only 1 minute later, faculty in the Harshberger building heard gunshots. The head of the department, Dr. Thomas Meixner, had been shot. Multiple calls were placed to 911
That guy looks like kind of like the guy from Breaking Bad, the car wash opener.
That time, initially causing some confusion as to whether there had been more than one shooting on campus.
Room 122 traumatic. Traumatic was shot? Monster. He's bleeding. He's got shot 3 times. He's been shot in the chest. He's bleeding. Okay, was this related to another shooting not Yes. Different. What is his name? Dervish.
The response from law enforcement had been rapid, but it wasn't quick enough. While medical personnel treated Tom Meixner and rushed him off to the hospital, Tucson police combed the building, followed by the wider area, looking for the shooter.
Excuse me.
Students were issued a text message to leave campus.
Issued a
At
text
that
message.
time, it was unclear if the shooter remained nearby.
UAPD had a shooting.
We do not know what we're walking into.
They do not know if he's still armed.
Subject wearing an oversized shirt and shorts shot at an apartment.
An officer's dash cam caught the van driven by the gunman as they entered the scene, of course unaware that they were passing the suspect's vehicle. The van then drove off. The shooter, who was known by multiple witnesses to the incident, was identified as 46-year-old Murad Dervish, a former graduate-level pupil in the department who had been fired as a teacher's assistant, expelled as a student, and then banned from the campus. He had to track down the head of the department, gunned him down, and fled the scene.
What a piece of shit.
Professor Tom Meixner was declared dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. The gunman had fired no less than 11 times. 5 of the hollow point projectiles hit the professor, which expanded upon impact, causing severe damage. Senior research specialist
How many
Tim
ammunition
Corley
was this guy
was
using?
one of the individuals who spotted Murad Dervish in the hydrology building before the shots were fired. He had called out to the other staff to call 911. Soon after, he heard the gunshots, saw Tom run down the hallway where he was pushed into an office door by Dervish. There, according to Tim, Tom was shot again. In the office where Tom was pushed, executive assistant Irma Santander had been working. Irma was not injured by the gunfire, though Tim was struck in the leg. The last words they heard Tom speak before losing consciousness were directed to Murad Dervish. Cursing at his attacker, he said, "Fucker, I knew you were gonna." No one, it seems, was surprised that things had escalated
Fucker, I
to
knew
murder.
you were gonna.
In his 52
No,
years,
man,
Tom
what the
Meixner
fuck?
had a lot to be proud of. But he was not a boastful man. Perhaps his greatest achievement
Fucker,
was
I
his
knew you were
family.
gonna.
Tom was known
That's
as a
some
sweet
wild,
and
some
thoughtful
crazy
husband to
shit
wife
to be saying when
Kathleen
you're dying,
and a
bro.
loving father to his 2 sons. He was also described as a brilliant and inquisitive scientist. Tom had beaten cancer 4 times.
Damn.
His loss was a huge blow, not only to his family, friends, and the university, but the wider community. With a water crisis declared due to shortages from the Colorado River, colleagues remarked how the professor's knowledge and expertise was a devastating loss to the whole state. Murad's van was captured leaving campus, driving aggressively. He began driving towards California before making a turn south towards the Mexican border. Law enforcement tracked him 3 hours later, driving on Arizona State Road 85, more than 120 miles northwest of Tucson. Refusing to pull over, they used a pit maneuver to spin his vehicle and force a stop. The 46-year-old ex-graduate student was apprehended and brought into custody.
Custody time today is 1710 hours, and it was the Department of Public Safety that took the suspect into custody after a traffic stop just outside Gila Bend, Arizona.
This chick needs
Paula
to retire.
Balathas, the university police chief, briefed the media after the shooting. She seemed oblivious to the widespread fear of Murad Dervish in the hydrology department, which had existed for months. Her statements about the unpredictable nature of the tragedy in particular were not well received. The threat posed by Murad Dervish had been taken seriously by members of the department since at least February, but no one, they said, would do anything to stop him.
Everything did work
Bro,
like clockwork,
that's
though.
like
We got
5
our,
magic attacks
our
in a
campus
row.
alerts out very
Chill,
quickly.
man.
We secured the building very quickly.
God damn. Give me that. Eat. That was KC501. Let's see what we got here for that trip. We got 500 KC officially now. Another 760K, boys. We're making bank today. We're making bank today. Bank.
And as I said, it's a tremendously tragic event. We feel so incredibly bad for the professor's family, friends, and colleagues, and our hearts really just go out to them. It's definitely a tragedy, and I think that it's just one of those things that sometimes you can't even predict.
Did the suspect have a criminal background?
I don't have that information.
At the police station the same evening, detectives were rapidly piecing together the sordid background of Murad Dervish. Seated and awaiting questioning, Murad ranted openly, offering some indication as to what had led him to open fire at his teacher. He stated, "I hope he's okay, but that's probably wishful thinking." Once in the interview room, detectives began by asking Murad for simple background information. Where had he lived? What had he been up to before arriving in Tucson?
Lived anywhere else? In my whole life. I lived in Pennsylvania for a while. Overseas ever? No. California, Pennsylvania, Arizona. Okay.
Before moving to Tucson, detectives found that Murad had lived in Pennsylvania, where he earned his bachelor's degree. He had lived in South Carolina with his parents, and then moved to California, where he had also enrolled in graduate studies. At the University of San Diego, he had issues after harassing a female student, behavior that he would repeat in Arizona. Detectives would find the notice for a restraining order taken out by the undergraduate student in Murad's van. There had reportedly been 30 instances of unwanted contact by Murad to the student. She later recounted that she told campus police in exasperation that they obviously were not going to act until someone had been killed. It was not only staff and students at the university that predicted Murad would turn violent. His mother, Patricia, had taken a restraining order out against her son years earlier after he had allegedly tried to kill her. The details of that incident have not been discussed publicly. In South Carolina, Murad's father explained that he would regularly lash out at family and others. His violent outbursts began around the age of 10, when Murad pulled a knife on his babysitter.
Pulled a knife on a pizza man, breaking things, and he threw things at me and hurt. So there he tried to kill his mother.
Upon hearing about the murder, Dolan Dervish was heartbroken, but not surprised.
My first impression was it finally happened. He killed somebody. My heart goes for this young man. He's 52 years old. We studied all about him. He was a wonderful man.
His son had been to prison 3 times. He had also been involuntarily committed for mental health treatment twice, in 1998 and then again in 2011.
We kept him in there.
His second stay resulted
Nice
in
drop
diagnoses
right there, boys. We're
including
making fucking bank
schizophrenia.
today, boys. Oh
Murad
my
Dervish
god.
suffered from paranoid
Give it
delusions.
to me.
His father pleaded with authorities to get his son the help that he needed.
Put him in prison and punish him, you would think, in 2 years, and let him out, and nothing will be done.
Murad had been enrolled in the master's degree program in atmospheric sciences, which is within the Department of Hydrology and Atmospheric Sciences at the university. Murad's volatility had been an issue since enrolling at the school in the autumn of 2021. After receiving a grade that he disagreed with, he screamed obscenities at a professor in the middle of class. As a result, he lost his graduate assistant teaching job. This action seemed to only intensify his rage. He made threats that terrified hydrology faculty so much that they moved classes to Zoom. As the threats and harassment increased, Murad was expelled from the program and banned from campus that February. In April, he sent an email to the department that read, "I don't think you have any clue who you are dealing with. But you are about to find out, and I really don't think you're going to like it. 2 weeks later, he followed up by writing that if he was not reinstated, I promise the consequences are going to be absolutely catastrophic. The day following this email, university police visited him at home and told him they were citing him for threats and intimidation, charges that the Pima County Attorney's Office later decided not to pursue.
Of course, because they're issued by the fucking school police. Get the real police down there. What the fuck? No one's gonna take the school police serious. You kidding me?
If you're on university
Get the
property,
fuck out of here.
campus trespassing charges apply as well. Those charges can be added. So that's just a caution to you, sir.
So what is it again? It's a citation for what?
There's 2 charges for threats and intimidation, sir.
For threats?
Yes, sir.
Made by me, you're saying?
That's what the charges are for, yes, sir.
And they're misdemeanor threats?
They are, that's correct.
I didn't make any threats for anyone, so I don't know what that is.
Despite the ban on campus, Murad kept returning. Staff were left fearful of their safety for the following 10 months. A flyer with a photograph of Murad had been circulated to university staff with instructions to call 911 if he ever entered the building. Professors recounted fearful trips to and from their classes straight back to their cars, constantly looking around them in case Murad was lurking and about to attack. One professor purchased a bulletproof vest.
Smart
The same
motherfucker.
professor also switched offices in the Harshberger building should Murad seek him out there. That move could have saved his life. It was this professor's previous office where Murad made his first stop after arriving with his gun on October 5th. Finding graduate students in this office instead of the professor, he moved on. Professor Chris Castro, who would become the head of the department after Tom's death, likewise took out a personal protection order. Back in the interview room with the easy questions and small talk dispensed with, Murad decided that it was not in his best interest to speak with investigators after all.
You know, like, beyond the charges, I really don't want to answer any more questions. I don't think I should really answer any more questions. You know, without a Okay, well, you're free to answer whatever questions you want. Yeah. If you choose not to answer a question, that's completely within your rights. So if I read you a question you don't want to answer it, just say I don't want to answer it. Yeah. Does that work for you? Well, I think I'd rather, just talk to the lawyer, first before. Okay. I mean, I would just like to know the charges and then. Okay. Get a lawyer. Wait for the lawyer. It's really unfortunate because I would really like to hear your story. I was an undergrad here a long time ago, and I got treated really poorly by staff here. I mean, you'll be able to, you'll hear my story in court. Yeah, if you're there.
But the ex-graduate student said that he did have some questions for the detectives. He claimed to have no idea what crime he was being charged with.
So right now, there's a gentleman, Tim Corley, who was injured today. I don't know if you know Tim. Tim was hit by a stray bullet. So that's, at a minimum, we're looking at aggravated assault.
Wouldn't that be like
So
attempted
that's one of the
murder?
charges I'm looking
If he gets hit by a stray bullet while he's trying to kill someone else? Like,
No, there are others I'm considering.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Such as? If you don't want to talk to me without a lawyer, that's fine. We can wrap this up pretty quick. We have quite a bit of evidence. And I think you know what that evidence is, but I'm not going to press you for any question. Press you on that. I am charging you with murder in the first degree. Oh. Okay. You look surprised. You tell me of whom?
Murad refused to offer any information or speak openly about the shooting, despite the mounds of evidence pointing to him as the gunman. Shortly after his arrest, detectives had searched his van. In it, they found 2 loaded handguns, a 9mm and a .25 caliber, both small and easily concealed. There were 5 knives in the van, along with 1 machete, a signal blocker, 3 cell phones, and a can of mace. Casings consistent with those at the scene of the murder were also found in the vehicle. There were also a collection of other personal items. It seems that Murad had stopped paying rent, had been evicted from his home and was also living in the van.
Not a boy.
Murad continued to insist that he would not speak any further without a lawyer. But only moments later, when the detectives left the room, with the camera still running, he spoke aloud to himself.
What a dumbass.
Okay. I would really like to hear what you have to say today. We found a gun in your car. I'm sure you would like to hear it. We found a gun in your car. From this order of protection. It looks like you're prohibited from possessing any firearms. Well, it's a shame we can't talk. You seem like we have a lot in common. Going to UA and living in San Diego. Unfortunately, I can't speak with you. Delaware. You are free to. Those are your right. You are free to speak with me. I am. Yes, I know. Well, at least I fulfilled my mission.
County prosecutors moved forward to trial with first-degree murder charges at a Pima County Superior Court. The case against Murad Dervish was very strong, but questions remained. Detectives found that Murad had thousands of dollars left in his bank account. He was not left destitute after losing his teaching position, nor was he incapable of paying his rent. Yet he forced an eviction and grew resentful as he lived out of his van. According to Murad, his intention when entering the Harshberger building that day was to reason with Tom Meixner over the loss of studies and the teaching position.
Yeah, reason
He
with
anticipated an apology and perhaps compensation for the amount that he had lost as a result of what was obviously an unfair decision made by the faculty. He carried his gun with him, he said, because he always did. This was not a sign of premeditation. Prosecutors believed that Murad was motivated, at least in part, by his bad grade and the subsequent fallout. But as the details of his threats and harassment came to light, so did another possible motive: anti-Semitism. In message after message to department staff, Murad used targeted, hateful language detailing what he perceived to be a Jewish and Asian-led conspiracy against him. Many of these texts were sent to a professor of Arab descent, accusing him of aiding his colleagues' nefarious schemes and becoming one of them. For betraying him, he wrote that, "I hope somebody blows your brains out."
Nice guy.
In these messages, Murad explained that after a Google background search of Thomas Meixner, he concluded that the department head was a Jew. Tom Meixner was in fact Catholic. Nonetheless, this professor contacted Tom, warning him that texts from Murad indicated that he was in danger. When the case went to trial, it was not pursued as a hate crime, though it did not go unnoticed that the attack occurred, coincidentally or not, on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Murad Dervish attempted to represent himself at trial. He also tried to have his lawyers fired. He was unsuccessful on both counts. He was found competent to stand trial, but offered a defense of guilty except insane. If this argument was successful with the jury, he would be sent to a mental health facility instead of prison.
Know that he's having delusions. He thinks things that aren't happening are happening.
Gavin Baker, a psychologist, took the stand for the defense and testified that Murad was paranoid and delusional. He believed there was a conspiracy against him and confronted Tom Meixner while in a delusional state, and then responded in an explosive manner. He said that Murad could not, at that time, tell right from wrong.
Although guilty of the charges against him, was legally insane under Arizona law, as he had a chronic mental illness of such great severity that he did not know that what he was doing was wrong.
I'm just trying to understand how we get to an analysis of being so severe he can't tell right from wrong with your testing results.
The state countered that Murad Dervish was mentally ill, but there was an abundance of evidence to show that he was aware of what he was doing, had planned the attack, and knew what he had done was wrong. Murad even acknowledged in a mental health assessment that he knew his actions were illegal.
You said to them, there's a lot of evidence against me, right? And then you asked, is there a death penalty in Arizona? So clearly, if you're saying there's a lot of evidence against me, is there a death penalty in Arizona? You're aware of the fact that you broke the law. Yeah. Okay.
That Murad drove aggressively from campus after the attack to escape law enforcement also showed his consciousness of guilt. His explanation for running from campus was that he believed that Tim Corley, whom he struck with his final shot, had a gun.
I guess the last shot hit Mr. Corley in the leg. He kind of went down. He kind of bent down very fast, and I felt like he may be going for a gun or something. And that's how it came to run out of me, because I knew I didn't have any bullets left. Okay. So I ran out.
Prosecutors argued that this explanation made no sense. Why would Tim Corley have a gun? How could Murad have reasonably felt threatened by a man he had just shot? The defense argued that this explanation does indeed make sense in the mind of someone experiencing paranoid delusions. After leaving the scene of the murder, Murad texted his mother. She was not in regular contact with her son. In fact, over the years, she had found their conversations to be so aggressive that she routinely changed her number to avoid him. On October 5th, Murad was able to reach out. He left her a voicemail.
I gotta talk to you. I shot that guy. I hope he's dead.
Opposing testimony from mental health experts were presented to the jury. They deliberated for less than 3 hours before reaching a verdict against Murad Dervish.
If they don't find this guy guilty,
of first-degree premeditated murder. There was no exception given for insanity.
15th of October 2022 as a result of the death of Thomas Meixner as follows. Guilty.
For Tom Meixner's family, the verdict was the justice they needed. But it did not go far enough. While the criminal case against Tom's killer was being pursued, Kathleen Meixner turned her efforts to another area in desperate need of change. The University of Arizona's security and safety procedures. That Murad had posed an obvious and very serious threat for months, while university security and authorities did little to nothing, had become an undisputed fact for most at the university. The Meixner family filed a $9 million notice of claim against the school in March 2023, saying there were numerous ways the university failed to protect Tom and the rest of the community. University President Robert Robbins said campus police tried to get Murad charged on 2 separate occasions before the shooting and took the complaints to Pima County prosecutors, but they were told there wasn't enough evidence. In January 2023, the Faculty Committee on University Safety issued a report that summarized what it called a glaring institutional failure that has severely compromised safety of the community.
There's so many boys. My birthday's in 2 days. What should we do for our birthday stream, chat? Should we do around 100 on a zombies map? Should we do around 100 on a on a zombies map for my birthday, boys? Do we go all in? 24-hour stream? I think it just popped up one day. Yeah, right. Boys, we got basically 25 mil in the bank.
Susan Lawrence was the neighbor that no one liked. She complained about
Take a piss. Well, almost 25 mil in the bank, boys. What I think we might do, honestly, we might end up just saving up 100 milli in the bank and then fucking splurging on something. Get a good setup. Hey, babies! Hey, big boys! Hey, baby boy! Hi. Excuse me. Boys, man, look at this bank, boys. It looks beautiful. It looks fucking beautiful. $60 mil for the DHCB.
noise. She yelled and cursed at the neighborhood children. She had no trespassing signs placed on the open green space outside her home where the kids liked to play. Susan called the sheriff's office on her neighbors frequently. Then, one summer night, tensions in the neighborhood boiled over. The sheriff's office was called out again, but this time, before they could reach the house, a gunshot rang out, and a mother of 4 was dead. Hi there, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case has made headlines internationally, and that's not surprising. What is shocking is how a neighborly dispute could grow so out of control, and how a self-defense law could potentially justify the shooting of a mother standing up for her children. Let's take a look. Southwest 108th Lane in Ocala, Florida, is lined with uniform homes, each one divided into separate apartment units. They sit on relatively generous plots of land with greenery to the front and a quiet road where children can run around, visit with their friends, and ride their bikes. The neighborhood is full of families. The children often gather on the open green to play sports and other games, their parents sharing the duties of supervising their activities. This was the case just before dark on June 2nd, 2023. For most of the children, the school year had just ended. That Friday night marked the beginning of the summer holidays. For these kids, it was one of the most exciting times of the whole year. At just before 9 p.m., the joyful atmosphere was harshly interrupted. From down the street, neighbors heard the distinctive sound of a single gunshot ring out. From the open green, local residents watched as a mother of four, Ajika Owens, collapsed to the ground. She was outside of a neighbor's house just across the street from her own home. Her 9-year-old son had been next to her.
911 was the address.
The white lady that lives right there, the one that always calls the cops. Come here, y'all boys, come here. Come here. Hey, y'all boys, come here.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
Hey, your mom's laying in the grass or what?
I need you to repeat the address for me to make sure I have it correct.
I don't know what's going on. We just heard a gunshot.
Okay, sir.
Your mom's laying in the grass, but
sir,
nobody wants to go over there. We ain't trying to get caught.
Sir, this is very important. I need you to repeat the address for me to make sure I have it right.
Hey, y'all boys, back up. It's the old lady that always calls the cops over here.
Sir.
Hey, Izzy, get over here.
Sir.
Yes, ma'am?
I need you to go inside your house
y'all boys, back up.
and lock the door for your safety.
Okay, she's in front of the lady's house. She was knocking on her door.
Okay.
Hey, it's the old lady that always calls the cops over here.
The 3 months,
Sir, do
essentially.
you see the deputy?
2.5 months.
Right here. She's on the ground. Hey, the
2.5
cops
months.
just pulled up.
2.5 months. Alright, I'm gonna take my dog outside. I'll be right back, okay, gentlemen? Alright. Let's go. Keep going. Two and a half months. Keep going. Back, boys.
Right here. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir.
Panicked parents and the neighbors were not the only residents to place a call to 911. From inside Unit 3, behind the door that Ajika had approached moments before, 58-year-old Susan Lawrence placed her own panicked and distressed call to emergency services.
Oh my God, this lady just tried to break down my door. I shot through the door. Oh my God.
Okay, repeat that address for me to make sure I have it correct.
They were trying to come in my house.
Okay, take a deep breath for me. Calm down.
Oh my God.
You said someone tried to break down your door, is that correct?
Yes, the woman was screaming and yelling and she was trying to break down my door.
Screaming and yelling, trying to break down the door. Probably trying to
was a
knock on the
female?
door. Like, bitch, get the fuck out here.
I didn't know what to do. I grabbed my gun and I shot at the door. And I thought they were going to get me. Oh my God.
Okay, you said you shot at the door, is that correct?
Yes, I shot at the door because she wouldn't stop. I told her to get away and she wouldn't. She just begged.
Bro, what the fuck is this crazy bitch
This is
thinking?
the woman who attacked me.
Okay, do you still see the subject?
I don't know where she is. I'm still in my house. I didn't open my door to her.
Did you know her?
Yes, she's come after me several times because of her children. Her children keep trespassing over here. They're bothering me and bothering me. They won't stop.
Is she a neighbor?
Yes.
Oh, I'm done.
Deputies from the Marion County Sheriff's Office responded to the Green, where they found Ajika, or AJ as her friends knew her, suffering from a gunshot wound to the chest.
She's inside. Okay. Where? Bro, where? Ex-military. She's in that house, bro. That apartment. Right here. This first apartment. I need some like a tour. We need to do CPR real quick. Baby, wake up. CPR. Baby, wake up. Do we have any calls?
Neighbors called for her young sons to keep their distance, and everyone kept an eye out for the woman they knew to be the shooter, their widely despised neighbor, Susan Lawrence. Officers were directed to
She's like
Susan's
the
door.
only white lady in the black neighborhood. Like what? Like, of course you got of course she's gonna be causing a ruckus. This old lady. Like what the fuck? Like bro, I'm not even trying to be like joking. Like she's some old ass lady living in the hood. Of course this old bitch is gonna be causing a ruckus.
Show me your hands.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? This dumb bitch.
Where's your gun at?
Like what the fuck?
You got hands on, you're gonna be detained. Is there anybody else in the house?
Somebody else in the house. Can I just get my father?
No, not right now.
Alright.
You're not under arrest, you're being detained.
Okay, I understand.
Come over here.
I'll wait till you close the door. I have two cats inside.
Hold
I
on.
don't want the cats to run out.
Deputies began piecing together
Don't worry
the
about
events
your
of the
cats,
evening
man. You'll
before
never see them
detectives
again.
arrived
You're going
on
to
scene.
jail for the rest of your life.
A single bullet hole had punctured the door to the unit.
Bro,
Susan had
that's
fired
like
her gun
fucking
from inside
like,
her living room.
Bro, that's a
directly
death shot
at her
right there.
35-year-old
Holy
neighbor
fuck.
who stood on the other side. The mother of 4 received emergency treatment.
That's a
on
death
scene
shot if
and
I've
then
ever
was
fucking
transported
seen
to
one.
the
Oh my
hospital,
god, that's like
where she died.
It's like neck level. What
Susan
the
Lawrence was
fuck?
immediately detained, though not formally arrested or charged. In Florida, the controversial Stand
That's
Your
in
Ground
Florida
law
too. Okay,
protects the right of
I thought this was in what's it? Cali. I thought this was in California. This
residents to defend themselves
Florida.
when within their own homes. In these
Interesting.
cases, when threatened, there is no duty to retreat. The law allows for a deadly act of self-defense to be justified, but only when there is a reasonable threat of severe bodily harm or death. In the chaos of the emergency response, it was not yet clear what had prompted Susan Lawrence to make the extreme decision to fire her handgun.
All right, that's fine. We'll figure it out, all right?
Bro, I thought they were in the hood in Los Angeles.
Okay, so I'm going to record my all-time favorite song for you guys. It's called The Green Grass Grows All Around.
The green
Yeah,
grass grows
I'm bored.
all
So,
around.
here we go. Down in the ground, there was a hole. The prettiest.
AJ was the mother of 4 children, the youngest only 3 years old and the eldest 12. She was a devoted mother, someone who would regularly go out of her
My
way
boy's
to
a
help her
fucking
friends
baller
and
of the
neighbors.
stream for
She is
sure.
remembered as someone who endeavored to set a positive example, expressing warmth, compassion, and positivity while building a healthy spiritual life path for her and her children.
All right.
When I hear spiritual, I just think of females like doing astrology and shit. Like, yeah, I'm super spiritual.
On the evening of June 3rd, AJ crossed the street to confront Susan over the older woman's behavior and language towards her children. 2 of AJ's sons reported Susan throwing a roller skate and possibly an iPad at them. This incident was not the first of its kind. 58-year-old Susan Lawrence lived alone. She had no children. For 3 years, she had rented the apartment next to the large green. For at least 2 of those years, she had complained, repeatedly, to law enforcement, to other neighbors, and to whoever would listen about the noise and nuisance of the children playing next to her home. She had her landlord place no trespassing signs on the edge of his property line in a failed attempt to keep the children off of the grass. In early 2022, she reported that AJ hit her with her no trespassing sign. She would later claim that this was an attack on her. Witnesses described the encounter as heated, but non-violent.
Yeah, you can cash out. You can make me take tokes. Yo, Shiny Boy, show him.
Hit me with the sign.
Shiny Boy, show him what's good.
That she called the police on you? Yeah.
One of her repeated claims was that AJ's children walked their dog on the green and failed to clean up after it.
The children were walking their dog on the property. It clearly says no trespassing, and they're always walking the dog.
AJ told police that Susan would threaten her boys, telling them that if they continued to trespass on the green, she would have them arrested.
It's funny because I'm the one that never comes outside and says anything to me. She comes outside to go to the car or something, she sees him. Oh, I told you I'm gonna have you arrested.
In December 2022, deputies responded to yet another of Susan's calls.
You make me take tokes.
This time, she said that the children had again ignored
Okay,
her sign.
I have it set up
and
for
then
like 10
she
minutes,
claimed they had
10 minutes
stolen
apart,
it.
because
She had
I
another
did the stream
encounter
one
with
time,
AJ.
bro. And I ended up having to go to sleep after an hour and a half of streaming. People made me take like fucking over 100 tokes. It was insane. It was fucking nuts. Once every 10 minutes, yeah. Yo, there is this fucking... there's this guy that used to come in my streams all the time. He purchased... He got 42,000 points, and then he went and purchased tokes with all 42,000 points. I've never seen him in the stream since.
Sheriff's office.
He stayed around to get 42,000 points, spent them all in one day for me to toke every day. Like, well, all day. I just fucking, yeah.
have to listen to the screaming and
Pass the
yelling as
fuck
soon as
out.
I move the truck. The kids are coming up. I'm like, guys, stop. They know they're not supposed to be over here. They've been told many times. They've previously stolen the trespassing sign.
Yeah.
The kid tells me to shut up to my face. I said, don't be disrespectful to me. And he's exchanging words back and forth. I'm like, listen, my name is Dr. Lawrence. Don't tell me to shut up. And he was calling me names. I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. I said, go wherever you live. Listen, no. His mother comes over here. If you treat my son like that again, I'm going to rip your ass out and we'll beat you up. Excuse me? I don't bloody well think so. And I said, see that no trespassing sign? Get off my porch. And no, I'm not.
Cheers,
sure.
boys.
I said, yeah, I'm calling the sheriff's department. I don't know who the hell she was, but
Do you know where she lives?
I guess somewhere in there.
Do you know what she looks like?
She was black in the 20s, 30s, but I'm not going to take this.
Subsequent calls to police made by Susan did little to defuse the situation. Indeed, there was nothing that law enforcement could or would do to address the noise made by neighborhood children playing. Susan's claims that the children were antagonizing her, damaging her truck, or risking her safety by leaving toys out near to the sidewalk were countered by the parents' assertions that she, not the kids, was the problem.
Kids keep running back and forth over here. When the kids are out front, I don't, it's really noisy. For some reason, they love to play over here with guys.
Probably because it's open.
I understand that. I have migraines, horrible migraines. I had a very bad car wreck. I don't want to hear these children. The kids are not hurting anybody. The kids, they're not damaging anything. Well, they're damaging me because the migraines are so bad. Most days I could barely stand.
Oh yeah, well you're standing now, you dumb cunt.
On the other side.
Shut the fuck up.
I understand what you're telling me, and I get it, but you don't have sole power to say, hey, they can't be in this parking lot.
He's trespassing right now. He's trespassing.
He came over to come ask us a question. What do you need us to do? What do you want us to do?
I mean, he needs to get, because he's screaming all the time too.
Okay.
Bro, if I ever have neighbors like this, I do low-key have neighbors like this. My neighbors are terrible.
Recently with her one day because we were
They
all
think
playing,
they my neighbors are so corrupt. I found out the other day, the head person that lives in my complex ended up getting a job for the fucking condominium, and that's a conflict of interest. Because the head of our board is supposed to be like looking out for people in the complex, make sure there's no conflicts of interest. But they went and hired this chick on. The company that owns the complex went and hired this chick on. So I'm gonna start I'm gonna raise it to the attention of other people.
Well, you have to go on. Apparently we can't stay here and have a conversation.
That's what I'm saying.
Huge conflict of interest.
That's what I'm saying. She's out over there, right?
The last complaint that Susan made to police was in a 911 call placed only minutes before she fired the shot that killed AJ Owens. On that call, Susan told police that yet again the children were on the property where she lived, making noise and leaving their things out. She was told that deputies were on their way to check it out. AJ then came to her door, demanding that they discuss her treatment of the children. 2 minutes after disconnecting the call to 911, Susan walked into her bedroom where she kept 2 handguns in the bottom of a wastebasket. She retrieved her Remington 380. With the gun in hand, she walked back to the living room where AJ was yelling at her on the other side of the door. She fired.
Go find a map you want to play.
Called 911.
I did that map again. How did it go? Find a map you want to play and tell me.
In the wake of her death, with her shooter not yet arrested, a community movement emerged calling for swift justice. AJ's shooter was known. Her family and their supporters saw no reason for delay. They believed that Susan Lawrence should have been arrested and charged.
You start backing up and you lose track of where you are.
It is a public field. We live in an apartment complex. Nobody owns it.
I love how you say I'm gonna try and do it one and done. Play it one time and that's it.
The field is big, so it's really big. Even when they play out there, they don't play on the side where her apartment is. They play on the other side to avoid all this confusion, but she comes out anyways. Anytime the kids are out there, she's coming outside. She antagonizes the kids. She calls them names, slaves, racial slurs, all kinds of stuff, all of the children.
Did she say something to your children?
Yes, she says stuff to everybody's children. She's told me.
Back
and we hope that the state attorney will consider these witness statements from those neighbors who lived in that apartment complex, who had to deal with this woman who antagonized their children on a systematic basis.
Systematic? I think that motherfucker chose the wrong choice of words, or he's not that wrong.
On her side of the story, she makes claims that her life was being threatened. And the way the laws are written in this state, and this is what people need to understand, is our hands are tied in law enforcement in these cases where we are instructed that we cannot make the arrest because we have to rule out whether the shooting was justified or unjustified. So one of the biggest things is the interview of witnesses, and some of our witnesses were the mother's kids. And
It's
obviously,
just like
we
I
are
wanted
not
to
going
use.
to
I wanted like
interview them that
other guns, you know.
the direction is going, and we can't give out information, and it's difficult because here's the truth. Did we want to make the arrest that night? Absolutely, we did. There's no doubt about it. It's tragic when we see somebody that just shoots through a door and shoots another human being, really just because.
I don't want to be that guy, but like,
neighborhood squad.
let's flip the roles. Just imagine there's some black guy. Some black guy goes and shoots through the door, right? Some black guy goes and shoots through the door, and he shoots into like some like old lady, right? He shoots this old lady, for example. Like this black guy is gonna get so much more scrutiny. He's getting arrested that night, and like that's crazy, bro. This old lady is just getting treated so nice. I'm not a virtue signaler at all, but you can't deny that this old lady's getting treated pretty fucking fair for what's going on. Like, she shot blindly through a fucking door, you know? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this shit getting arrested.
Susan? Yes. I'm Detective Stiff.
Could have been anybody. Could have been a kid banging on that door, Nicky
When the
9 door.
58-year-old sat down with
You know what I mean?
detectives, she
Like-
repeatedly stated that she had been in fear for her life. When AJ approached her door, the young mother pounded on it aggressively. Critically, Susan claimed at that time, Ajika had threatened to kill her.
So what happened tonight that led to the conclusion that...
3 HP.
I'm like...
3 HP, we end that kill off with, boys. Holy moly. Holy. See what we got for loot here? For this run, looks pretty decent, I guess. $700K, boys. We're just racking cash, man. We're racking in cash today, boys. Holy.
Kids go home. So they go home, and then all of a sudden she comes out, and she is just banging on my door. I'm like, go away. I'm not dealing with you.
Packed its swallow
And
the
she
red
started
dot.
banging
Damn,
so
that's
hard,
actually insane.
everything starts shaking. And I'm like, you really need to leave. And I said, I'm gonna kill you. And she's just banging away.
Bang, bang, banging away.
Ever since she has actually harmed me, I'm like, it just keeps getting worse and worse. I'm like, I don't know what to do with her. And she banged so hard, it looked like my door was going to fly off. And that's
Yeah,
I
this bitch
I
is
panicked. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's really
a
going to
little
kill me this
dramatic.
time, you know. And so I don't even actually remember picking up the gun. I just remember shooting.
Where do you keep the gun usually?
It's in my bedroom.
She came to your door?
Oh, yeah.
And she was
pounding on it. Like, I was like, what the hell? My cats were flinging.
What was she saying? Was she
She's
saying
like,
anything?
You don't talk to my sons. I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, you know. And I just, I
Oh,
was, like,
Jesus
in
Christ,
tears. I'm
dirty.
like shaking, and I'm like, oh my God. And I
He's hitting like a truck. Oh yeah, dude, even
unpack
unpack a bunch. It was still killing
Oh,
around
shit.
round 30 with 2 bullets.
After some time in the interview room, detectives tell Susan that her neighbor is dead.
Is that what happened? I mean, we gotta kind of get specific about this because it's a big deal.
I understand.
Someone's dead.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So that's why I say it's important to be specific and honest about everything.
I didn't mean to kill her. Well, then why the fuck did you shoot the gun? Yeah, that's exactly the first question I'd ask.
This was an absolute.
Didn't mean to
she's
kill
an
her.
empty
Why'd you
room.
shoot the weapon?
I mean, it's just like, I'm like, holy shit.
But did you see her with a gun or another weapon or anything like
But
that?
I don't know what she had on the outside. You know, when the lights were off.
Yeah, that's
you know,
like when
so she
anybody
came
would
out,
knock
it
on
was
your door,
dark
they
out.
don't know what they're gonna be
And I'm
holding
like,
or
great,
anything
now
like
she's
that.
pounding on
Like,
my
this chick's
door.
like just
No, she's
crazy.
scaring the crap out of me. You know.
This chick's a prune, bro. I
Oh,
don't really
now my
care.
door's
I'd hate for that
moving,
to be my
and
girl,
I didn't
man.
have it
Jesus
properly
Christ.
secured.
My grandpa's
And
chill as
next
fuck.
thing I thought she was gonna be in my house, you know, killing me. I mean, that's honest to God what I felt. You know, it's not like, you know, I'm fed up or anything. This was a real fear.
AJ Owens was unarmed when she approached Susan Lawrence's home. Witnesses said that she first knocked on the sliding glass doors before moving to the front door, which was both locked and deadbolted. Not a single witness in the neighborhood overheard AJ threatening to kill Susan, though her yelling was within earshot of many witnesses. Neighbors told police that the words were either indistinguishable or that they only heard AJ calling for Susan to come outside to address her. Susan claimed AJ's banging on her door was severe enough to cause the walls to shake. She claimed that her door frame had been previously broken, making the lock less secure. Though it had been repaired, she believed that the pressure applied by AJ would be enough to break through the door. Crime scene analysts found evidence of the previous damage on the frame. Susan's landlord believed this was caused by the door being slammed shut aggressively in the past, though he could not be certain. Investigators also found that the door and locks were otherwise functioning properly.
And why don't you admit if it was the other way around and a black woman had shot through a door at a white kid, you would have arrested her that night?
Yo, that's low-key what I was saying, homeboy. I agree with this pastor or whoever this is. I agree with this guy.
And we can't let this go.
After days with no arrest, the calls for action were growing louder. An organized walk through downtown Ocala, ending at the state attorney's office in the courthouse, sent a clear message: arrest Susan Lawrence. 4 days after the shooting, the 58-year-old was brought in for questioning once more.
Like, stop, go away, move away, you should move away.
That's what I was saying, like, you could make that like a black man shooting out, bro, like a motherfucker's getting arrested.
Was there a spot you picked or something like that?
I just kind of, there was the door, I knew she was at the door.
Reckless endangerment, all this other shit.
Susan reiterated that she had no intention to kill. She shot high, so assumed she would not hit her. Later in the interview, detectives' curiosity was piqued by her choice of language. Susan spoke of AJ's behavior not being prudent or reasonable, and that she was in mortal danger.
You know what I mean?
This led detectives to ask, had she been researching Florida's self-defense laws? If so, when had she done so, before or after she shot and killed AJ Owens? Susan bought her first handgun, the Remington that she used that night, 1.5 years prior. The second, she had bought only a few months before. These purchases were prompted, she said, at least in part, by a desire to protect herself in her new home.
What did you feel that was going to happen?
And she's going to come in there and beat the shit out of me until I was dead.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I felt. I don't understand why she came over my house. If there was all those issues and problems, why don't you just call somebody? You know, that's, to me, that's what you do if you're normal.
You're smart, okay. And the reason is...
Oh, hell no. No, absolutely. I know what you're thinking. Did I look up the laws so I could do something? No.
This is not a situation where you set something up to because you were tired of this person. You were tired of the situation that they put you in.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Susan admitted to looking up information on another case which had involved the Stand Your Ground law as a defense, but had only done so the previous day. She read an article or two via Facebook, she said. Investigators later found that she had made internet searches for the language of the state law, and then she had quoted it back to them.
Hello, everyone. Sheriff Billy Woods here. I wanted to come to you tonight to give you an update on the homicide that occurred over the weekend. Tonight, we have arrested 58-year-old Susan Lawrence for the killing of Miss A.J. Owens. Now, many of you were struggling to understand why there was not an immediate arrest.
Goddamn right.
And that's one of the things. My detectives cannot complete an investigation without getting all sides of a story. And that night, all we had was one person's story, and that was the shooter's story. But Miss Owens' story had to be told through evidence in the eyes of witnesses who were there.
I'm sure they could have had any one of them go down
On June
to the
6, 2023, Susan was charged for the killing of Adjika Owens. To the disappointment of family and the community who supported them, the state claimed that they were unable to pursue a second-degree murder charge. The DA did not feel they had sufficient evidence to prove Susan's intent to kill when she fired. Instead, she faced a lesser charge of first-degree manslaughter. The state would argue that she had not intended to kill AJ, but had certainly fired with a careless disregard for her life. Susan's trial was scheduled for the summer the following year.
I'm asking for a speedy trial as I'm not getting care in the jail. I'm running blood pressures on 200 over 100, and I'm just afraid I'm going to die because I'm not caring for me at all.
The trial commenced in August 2024.
I didn't believe that Audrika was going to break down that door and kill her, but you're also going to hear the defendant say that Audrika was at the door that evening saying, I want to speak to you because I don't like the way you're talking to my sons. At the end of this case, you're going to hear that the defendant, Susan Lawrence, knowing the police were armed, was in.
Boys, I gotta go grab a glass of water. I'm sorry, my throat is fucked from these dabs. Just give me a second here. Yo, don't forget to send me a zombies map that you want to play a zombie.
And shot through that locked front door, and killed Ashika Owens, who was unarmed.
And in Susan's mind, in Susan's heart, in Susan's soul, in Susan's core, she feels like AJ is going to commit pulverizer. So she shoots the fire. And you'll hear evidence that the magazine of that gun can carry 6 bullets, but Susan only fired once. She didn't fire twice, she didn't fire 3 times, not 4 times, not 5, not 6 times. Once, in order to save her life.
The jury heard from neighborhood children and their parents about Susan's behavior prior to the shooting, that she struck one of them with a hurled roller skate, threw an iPad, and attempted to strike them with an umbrella. They responded by telling Susan that they were going to tell their mother, to which she replied, "Go ahead, I don't care." Accusations that Susan had used racial slurs towards the children in the past were excluded from the trial. It was thought that introducing these sentiments to the jury would cloud their decision-making, as well as open a line for appeal for Susan later, if convicted. Jurors did hear about other alleged incidents in which she used insulting language towards the neighborhood children. Susan Lawrence chose not to take the stand in her own defense. Jurors heard her version of events through her videotaped interviews, throughout which she continued to complain about the children and speak unkindly of AJ. 2 neighbors were called to testify to the loud banging they heard on Susan's door that night, including Yvonne Costa from Unit 4, who shared a wall with Susan's apartment.
Started shaking and like pounding on the wall. And it really scared me.
Okay. How long after you heard the door slam did you hear that pounding?
Very shortly. Very shortly. Within a few minutes.
How would you describe the pounding?
It was very loud. And it scared me because the wall was shaking.
When you heard the banging, what was your first thought of who was causing that?
I thought Susan was banging on the wall.
Did you later come to learn that that was not the case?
Yes.
Okay.
What did you hear?
I heard a lot of pounding, a lot of yelling, screaming, and then I heard a gunshot.
Did you hear a lot of pounding on a door like it was going to be pushed down?
Yes.
Did you call it like a cop knock?
That's what I call it.
Was it very loud?
Very loud.
Did you hear
Cop
anyone
knock?
scream?
Oh, that
Yes,
chick.
I heard a
She's straight off the
woman's
res.
voice
This one.
screaming. To me, it sounded like she was screaming words, but I could not understand any of the words.
This one's
Was
straight
there a
off
lot
the
of
res.
pounding
Like
on
cop.
the door?
Nah,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
Regardless of whether AJ's banging on her door was frightening, the state argued that there was no real threat. Susan's first call to 911 that night had ended only 2 minutes before she fired. She had been told that the police were on their way. The landlord, Charles Gabbard, testified that prior to the shooting, he had repaired a jamb on the front door. He said that it was structurally sound after he repaired it, despite some cosmetic damage. The door was sturdy and had a chain, a deadbolt, and a lock. Only the chain was not in use on the night in question. The trial was over within a week. Jury deliberations lasted 2.5 hours.
I just had like
I'll have
5
the clerk
zeros in a row.
read the verdict.
Verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find as to count 1 of the charge.
Guilty.
The defendant is guilty of manslaughter. Did the state prove beyond...
Outside the courthouse, Ajika's mother, Pamela Dias, thanked the jury for their service and reaching the correct decision.
Testimony, the interrogation, where she showed no remorse, continues to show no remorse, displayed the utmost care and concern for her cats. And she literally had just shot and killed a mom of 4, rendering them with their entire support system, their everyday childhood experiences, future, just gone, just like that.
AJ's children are with family and are said to be coping the best they can under the circumstances. At the age of 60, Susan Lawrence faces a sentence of up to 30 years. At the
She
time of
won't be in there
publication,
forever.
this sentence has not yet been handed down.
And on
She
this
dying in
branch,
there, 100%.
there was a nest. The prettiest nest that you ever did see. Let me see your nest.
That chick dying in there, dude. Come on, move. Come on, baby. Oh no. My headset. Oh. No. I knocked over my headset. We playing headsetless right now, boys. Hit him. Oh. Found another name? Alright, no worries. Come on, right here. Dead. Let's go. Oh. Alright. It's hard, but it's kind of fun. Alright. That's what I tell the ladies all the time. It's hard, but it's a lot of fun. You feel me? You actually. Ooh.
Newsflash, there's no time to find a therapist. If I don't check everything off my to-do list, I will literally fall into...
A distress call went out to the United States Coast Guard at 1 o'clock in the morning on the 15th of May, 2017.
Oh, by the way, let's see here. Let's see how much we made, boys, this trip. Another 670k, 700k, whatever you want to say, you know? Not bad, not bad. Not bad. We out here. We making money.
Lewis Bennett, on a sailing honeymoon with his new wife Isabella, was floating alone in a life raft. His catamaran was taking on water. It was slowly sinking. As rescue teams scoured the water in the dead of the night, they located Lewis. They also found the submerged wreckage of his boat. But what they did not find was anything in the water that could have caused the vessel to sink. And they could not find Isabella.
Isabella.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case takes a look at a honeymoon that turned into a tragedy. A newlywed couple that should have been enjoying the trip of a lifetime. But instead of celebrating the start of their future life together, only the husband returned. Questions about what exactly happened on the boat that night followed him home. Let's take a look. Lewis Bennett, originally from Dorset in England, was a mining engineer by trade. He was also an experienced sailor. Holding both Australian and British citizenship, Lewis was well-traveled by the time he met and fell for Isabella Hellman, also 40 years old, in Florida in 2015. Isabella had been born in Cuba, but was a naturalized American citizen. She made a living as a real estate agent in Delray Beach, where she owned a condo and had an active social life. After meeting through an online dating site, Lewis and Isabella's relationship developed quickly. In July 2016, they welcomed daughter Amelia, who quickly became the center of their lives and their greatest joy. In February the following year, the couple decided to marry. Three months after they said I do, the newlyweds set out on Lewis's catamaran, Surf of Summer, to St. Martin, Puerto Rico, and Cuba for a delayed honeymoon. On the morning of May 14th, the adventure nearly over, Isabella used their satellite phone to call home to her sister. They had just set out from Veradero and were headed back to the Florida coast. Isabella was looking forward to returning home and reuniting with her daughter. In the early morning of May 15th, the United States Coast Guard, the USCG, received an emergency position indicating radio beacon and personal locator beacon approximately 26 nautical miles west of Cay Sal Bank in the Bahamas. Lewis Bennett, floating alone in the water, was placing distress calls. The Surf of Summer had struck an unknown object in the dark of the night. It had taken on water rapidly. While Lewis floated in a life raft sending pleas for help, his new wife, Isabella, was unaccounted for. It was nearly 4 a.m. by the time the Coast Guard located Lewis in international waters and airlifted him to safety. Their response had been swift, yet it had been hours since Isabella had been last seen alive aboard the boat. Lewis told the USCG that he had gone to the cabin to sleep that evening just after dinner at roughly 8 p.m., leaving Isabella to operate the catamaran at the helm. He said he awoke when the boat struck an unknown object in the middle of the night, rocking the vessel and causing water to flood inside. When he moved topside, Isabella was no longer there. Lewis deployed his life raft and abandoned ship. If she was to be saved, given the conditions in the water, Isabella would need to be located in a matter of hours. The USCG jumped into action, searching thousands of square miles for any indication of Isabella. A spokesperson explained what information they had to work with for the search, that Lewis had last seen his wife on deck, and that at that point in time, she was wearing a life jacket, a fact that gave hope to everyone involved in the search.
Wearing a life vest when you went below that night. We're not positive she was wearing one when she went overboard. Sleep, and he felt that they ran into something in the night and went above deck, and they were taking on water, and he couldn't find her. It's certainly a large search area right now, but we're putting all the assets we can on scene.
While the Coast Guard searched for Isabella, they managed to locate the wreckage of the catamaran, which had by that time become fully submerged. the search did not yield any further discoveries. 3 days later, on the 18th of May, with no sign of Isabella, the search was called off.
You just don't see things like these happen, you know? We know that we all gonna die, but this is just the weirdest thing ever. And like this, you know? We need help. We need people just to keep sharing, find Isabella, hashtag find Isabella.
Once back at home in Delray Beach, Lewis Bennett was interviewed a second time by law enforcement. He explained that the honeymooners had begun their voyage in St. Martin and had traveled to Puerto Rico and other islands prior to arriving in Cuba. The couple spent the day before the wreck in Veradero, Cuba, before departing in early evening, about 5:30 p.m., to head to either Key West or Fort Lauderdale. Before he set off to bed that night, Lewis set the autopilot on a course heading towards Florida. He told Isabella to take the watch and wake him if he was needed. After a few hours, he was awakened by a crash underneath. The sailor told police that he went to the upper deck and Isabella was not there. Noticing then that the vessel was taking on water, he began to prepare to abandon the ship. It took him roughly 45 minutes, he said, to gather his personal belongings into a life raft and abandon the Surf of Summer to the water. It was the FBI that took over Isabella's missing person case. In Delray Beach, they searched the home that the newlyweds shared, ostensibly for an indication that the disappearance may be more than a tragic accident. They found a few red flags. An experienced sailor, Lewis had not made any attempts to locate the source of the flooding on the boat, nor had he taken the next logical step, which would be to attempt to stop the catamaran from taking on the water. More disturbing, when asked what efforts he had made to search for his wife, he indicated that he did not do anything. No flares were fired to illuminate the area. He claimed not to have been calling out to her across the water. He did not search the area surrounding the boat to see if she had fallen in. In fact, once on board the life raft, Lewis cut the line that tethered the raft to the boat. He explained that he did this because he was afraid of being pulled underwater if the vessel were to sink. According to the USCG and catamaran design and sales personnel, the Surf of Summer is a type of catamaran that is very seaworthy, and given the sailing training and capabilities of Lewis Bennett, the boat should have been able to stay afloat if he had followed very basic flooding procedures. Members of the helicopter, fixed-wing plane, and 2 cutters, which are the Coast Guard search and rescue vessels, all involved in the search efforts for Isabella, reported that no navigation hazards were observed during their search and rescue efforts. Despite days of searching, teams could not identify an object that could have struck the vessel in the night. Additionally, no other vessels were observed near the area where Lewis was rescued. Lewis Bennett's story, like his catamaran, was full of holes.
Ooh, I see what you did there.
On the 19th of May, only a few days after Isabella went missing at sea, and the day after the search efforts were formally paused, Lewis Bennett requested that the Coast Guard provide a letter of presumed death for Isabella. If his wife was presumed dead, Lewis would be entitled to her estate. The USCG refused to do so, explaining that they do not have the authority. The following day, the new husband booked 2 one-way tickets to the UK for himself and Amelia. He planned to collect his daughter from Isabella's mother and sisters who were caring for her and take her across the ocean to his parents' home. But in order to take his daughter and leave the country, he first needed to collect her. In the time between Isabella's disappearance and his return to Florida, Lewis believed that the condo that he and Isabella shared had been entered and items removed, and not just by the FBI. Lewis accused the Hellmans of entering and taking many of Isabella's personal belongings and other items. The Boca Raton police monitored the exchange.
I understand if you came to
I don't want to talk about anything right now. I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about anything.
I need that stuff back. Yeah.
We don't have anything. We don't have anything.
Video
God,
surveillance.
you can kill me right now if I see something from the house.
I'm not saying you necessarily, but your family came into
I
our
know
house.
you're in.
You don't have any of these things. You don't have a laptop, you don't have the iPad, you don't have the bag.
I don't want anything.
Okay. Are you telling me you've taken none of this stuff?
I don't have anything. Go look for
I
it.
don't need to go and look. You need to give it to me back.
I don't have anything.
Things turned ugly when Lewis collected Amelia from her grandmother. The Hellmans feared that they may never see her again.
You've got to be better than this.
You don't need clothes. You kill my sister. You kill my sister. No, mi niña, mami. Mi niña, no. He killed my sister.
Your sister's dead?
Yeah, he killed my sister.
How did your sister die?
Yeah, he killed my sister. Have you seen the news?
No, how did your sister die?
She disappeared. She disappeared. Look at the news. He's being investigated.
Oh, is she the one from Bahamas?
Yeah.
Please, this is not right.
We already know.
He's being investigated. Sent it.
There's nothing to investigate.
So what you want me to play?
Make this easier for everyone.
Anything else I could do for you? It would be best probably if just take her off. You know, like, so,
I can't
if you
remember
want to let them see the
pronounce
baby
that.
one time, that would be probably goodwill. You know what I'm saying? I'll stick around if you want to let them hold the baby for a few minutes.
I don't think that's right.
It's up to you, man. But if you want, I'll stick around for that.
That's okay. I'm good.
Okay.
On or about May 28th, Lewis did take Amelia to the UK, first to England, where his parents lived, and then to Scotland, to his sister's home. He did not tell the Hellman family of his plans.
Amparo says Bennett has changed since Isabella's disappearance.
En ningún momento yo pensé que él se me iba a llevar la niña a los 15 días. Que nos ayuden y que me ayuden con mi niña también. Que estamos sufriendo mucho.
The FBI investigation was ongoing. Agents began by examining the items that the USCG had retrieved from the life
Probably
raft.
around like, I don't know, maybe like, what time is it for you right now? What time is it for you right now? Going bald, chat. Oh no. Same time as me, 3:11. Okay. How does like, I don't know, 6 o'clock work? 6:30. How is that? Only a couple more hours. Huh? You balding a little too? Hey man. Cheers. We can be bald brothers together. Let's go.
Used to abandon the surf of summer. Lewis had secured a number of personal items in his raft, including a suitcase and 2 backpacks. When he was winched into the helicopter, he took one of the backpacks with him, leading the U.S. Coast Guard rescue swimmer to notice how it was unusually heavy. That backpack was not searched, but everything left behind in the raft was. In total, Lewis had with him in his raft the suitcase and backpacks, unexpended parachute flares, buoys, 14 gallons of water, a jar of peanut butter, a secondary emergency position indicating radio beacon, a tea set, Cuban trinkets, and 9 plastic tubes wrapped with clear tape containing what were determined to be silver coins. These coins were not standard change. The tubes contained 235 collectible silver coins worth about $4,200. Agents would later find 162 more coins in the condo in Delray Beach. The rare coins were returned to him briefly, but on the same day, the authorities allegedly realized they had been stolen a year before from a sailing vessel, the Kitty R, based on the Caribbean island of St. Martin. Lewis had been working as a crew member on the yacht at the time and had filed a police report to St. Martin Police, saying the boat had been broken into while the owner had been away. When the FBI sent photos of the coins to the Kitty R's owner, they were identified as being from a coin collection worth a total of $100,000. that had been stolen in the burglary. In the backseat of Isabella's car, the FBI found $20,000 in cash, assumed to be gained from the coins that had already been sold. Investigators maintained their yet unproven suspicions that Isabella Hellman's disappearance was no accident. In terms of proof, what they had was a case against the husband for transporting stolen rare coins, not a case for murder. Louis Bennett was arrested on the coin charges. His young daughter remained overseas. While serving a 7-month sentence, Louis, through his personal lawyers, filed in probate court in Palm Beach County a request for a presumptive death certificate for his wife. Once this declaration was legally made, he would have access to the condo she had solely owned, her bank accounts, and other assets. The judge was not impressed. Florida law holds that a person should be missing for no less than 5 years before such a declaration is made. It had only been 5 months. The FBI saw this as further circumstantial evidence that Louis Bennett had more than likely murdered his wife.
People generally hope the other person is alive, and they wait as long as possible. So the immediacy of this is concerning. I don't have anybody now, even from the Coast Guard, who's testified this is inaccurate and full report. I don't have any testimony that she was on the boat.
The judge also asked, what's the rush? Because it's been 5 months since Isabella went missing. Can
Correct.
you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I don't actually view it as a rush. I know it's not 5 years, but we do have assets that otherwise are just going to go to waste.
What are the things he's trying? I know it's the home, the car, other bank accounts.
There's 2 small bank accounts, as you heard me talk about. There's some minor tangibles, a car, home. I don't remember anything off the top of my head.
The judge refused to make the declaration at that time. Louis's attorney believed that he would require the support of the Hellman family in order to succeed in changing the judge's ruling. Except, the Hellmans were not ready to declare Isabella lost to them forever. They also believed that if her assets were to be transferred, they should be given to her daughter, not Louis Bennett.
But they have been very vocal about not wanting her to be presumed dead, and I believe that's completely against what your client is after.
I'm not aware of them being vocal about this.
They've spoken to us and told us, on the record, that they don't want her declared dead.
Why is that?
They said that they still have hope she's missing. It's only been 5 months, and they're surprised that Mr. Bennett would want to do this so quickly.
I can guarantee you Mr. Bennett would he himself would much prefer that they find Isabella.
During the course of the investigation, law enforcement learned that Louis did not activate his satellite phone and register his personal locator beacon, his PLB, until he was in Cuba in mid-May. By that time, the couple had already traveled from St. Martin's to Puerto Rico and then to Cuba earlier in the month. Experts familiar with transnational sailing consulted by the FBI believed that the voyage from St. Martin would warrant having an activated satellite phone and a registered PLB on board the boat as life-saving devices. That Louis waited until the final leg of the voyage to activate those devices is indicative of the fact that he wanted to ensure his own rescue and survival after murdering his wife and intentionally scuttling his catamaran. The Coast Guard discovered the catamaran floating upside down about 30 miles west of the Bahamas. The wreckage was photographed to document the damage. Experts reviewing these images reached a few disturbing conclusions about what had occurred. They found that the holes made to the hull likely came from inside of the vessel because the spraying of the material faced outwards. There were 2 holes, each in nearly the same position on both hulls. Additionally, the exterior of the hulls do not show the kind of markings that one would expect if the boat had encountered an object in the water. Certainly, if the impact with the object was forceful enough to penetrate the hulls on both sides. According to USCG personnel and other maritime experts, this damage was also not catastrophic.
Holes were too neat. There's no scraping around the holes. You don't see anything leading up to that puncture, and you don't see anything trailing from it.
The photographs of the capsized vessel also show that the escape hatches in both hulls had been opened, These escape hatches are below the waterline and should never be open while the boat is in the water unless someone is actively escaping through them. Opening these escape hatches would cause water to enter and flood the cabin.
Once you open the hatch, you pretty much have declared your intentions and prevented the boat from being saved.
The FBI concluded that the catamaran did not sink from accidental damage. It was intentionally scuttled. Their experts stated that, "I cannot think of any items that would accidentally cause similar holes in both hulls at roughly the same time." In addition to that, the boat was easily salvageable based on this damage. It was the purposeful opening of the two escape hatches that caused the boat to flood. The investigators did not speculate as to how exactly Isabella's death had been caused, but the wreckage told a clear story. It was staged. Louis Bennett was charged with second-degree murder while serving his sentence for transporting the stolen coins. Prosecutor Benjamin Greenberg planned to introduce evidence of conversations with loved ones in which Isabella is said to have discussed arguments about their finances and parenting. The prosecution asserted that Isabella's murder would remove the marital strife from Louis's life and allow him to live as he pleased. He would also inherit money, a condo, and the Mercedes from Isabella's estate.
The Mercedes, homeboy's worried about the
Prosecutors further alleged that Isabella may have found out he had stolen the gold and silver coins from his former employer in St. Martin. This could have made her an accomplice in the smuggling crime. Her discovery would have also placed the couple at odds while out on the open water together.
Turning your ass
In November 2018, Louis Bennett reached an agreement with Florida prosecutors to plead guilty to manslaughter for the death of his wife. He was given the maximum sentence allowable for this charge: 8 years in federal prison.
I think the judge recognized the severity of the crime and sentenced as he felt was appropriate.
As part of his plea deal, he renounced any claims to his wife's belongings and agreed that all of the money in the estate would go to a trust fund for daughter Amelia, who would turn 3 years old that year. After the charges were filed, the Hellmans sought to acquire a death certificate for Isabella. This step allowed them to sell her condo and place the proceeds into a trust for Amelia. The toddler remained in the UK with the Bennett family. She had been in contact with the Hellmans through video calls. It was also reported that an overseas visit had been arranged, the first that Isabella's family would see her daughter since the first weeks after the mother's disappearance.
Do is hope that the visits will go forward. There'll be a continuation of those so that Amelia grows up knowing that she has two families that love her and care about her and can support her.
At the time of publication, Isabella Hellman has not been found.
I wonder if she was in that suitcase.
And that was the strange case of Isabella Hellman and her sailor husband, Louis Bennett. Thanks for joining me in the lounge today. I'm Kevin. This is Just Thought Lounge, and I'll see you in the next one. In the early morning hours of July 5th, 2005, while cruising across the Aegean Sea from the Greek island of Mykonos, 26-year-old newlywed George Smith IV went missing. There were signs that George had been partying heavily the night before. Maybe this was a tragic accident. There were also clues that pointed to foul play. All signs indicated that George had gone overboard.
It's unfortunate for the boy George.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin, and this is Just Thought Lounge. JTL is the true crime channel that delivers serious, well-balanced coverage of the cases that really make you think. Today's case has made headlines internationally. A young, vibrant, and happy newlywed couple, only days into their Mediterranean honeymoon, experienced an unbelievable and confusing tragedy. There have been many theories put forward in the case. An accident, a robbery, a murder. These theories include many suspects and many more witnesses, who may very well know far more than they are willing to admit. What really happened that night in cabin 9062? Let's take a look. In the year 2000, George Smith graduated with a business degree from Babson College in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Originally from Greenwich, Connecticut, George had a happy upbringing. His father, George Smith III, owned and operated a liquor store. After a few years of working as a computer search engine analyst in Boston, George opted to move back home and help his parents with store operations. He preferred to be active and sociable at work. The family business was a great fit for him. The plan was to learn the business under his father and then ease his parents into a well-earned retirement. George remained very close to his father, his mother Maureen, and his sister Bree. In 2005, at the age of 26, George was starting his new life. In June of that year, he married Jennifer Hagel at the Castle Inn in Newport, Rhode Island, a beautiful venue with the ceremony on the cliffs overlooking views of the ocean. Jennifer, 25, was also from Connecticut. The two had an apartment together in nearby Byram. Jennifer had just recently been offered a new role as a third-grade teacher. Straight from the wedding, the couple set off for a luxury honeymoon aboard the MS Brilliance of the Seas, one of Royal Caribbean's massive cruise ships. It embarked from Barcelona on the 29th of June, stopped for a time on the French Riviera, then cruised down the coast of Italy. The 12-day journey was then meant to travel through the Aegean Sea. During the cruise liner's stop on the Italian coast on the 1st of July, George and Jennifer befriended a family from California, the Askins, after sharing a taxi from the ship. Josh Askin was 20 years old, a bit of a joker, and made quick friends with George. George and Jennifer spent the 4th of July wandering the beautiful windy island of Mykonos. That night, the newlyweds prepared for a fun night of partying. After a romantic dinner, they met up first with another newlywed couple they had recently met. Then, much later in the night, they found Josh Askin at the ship's casino. George and Josh enjoyed some craps. Meanwhile, Jennifer was trying her hand at poker. When the casino closed down for the night, the couple moved on. The last known image of George was taken at this time, at roughly 2:30 a.m., from one of the many security cameras covering the massive ship. George was captured exiting the casino.
I was at the last one.
This did not mark the end of the night, however, and it was clear the next morning that George would eventually return to room 9062. Sometime around 8 a.m., Emily Rausch, a 16-year-old from Chicago, was getting ready for another day of fun in the sun and tourism in her family's cabin on Deck 7. Peering out from her window, Emily noticed what looked like blood smear on the lifeboat canopy. She also noted a smudge along the very edge of the canopy, as though someone, likely very injured, had landed on the canopy before going over the side. This disturbing discovery was situated below room 9062, and it was spotted by multiple passengers in nearby cabins. By 8:30 a.m., staff had been notified, and 10 minutes later, with both Jennifer and George still unaccounted for, the ship's chief officer entered the room. The cabin was subsequently blocked off with an armed officer guarding the door. Meanwhile, the search for Jennifer and George continued. At 10 a.m., Jennifer was located at the ship's spa, where she had been having a pre-scheduled massage. She said she had no idea where her husband was. She had not seen him since the night before. By this point, it was undeniable what the stains on the canopy were, and that George was not on the ship. Jennifer was informed at that time that her husband had gone overboard.
Men dressed in white uniform from Royal Caribbean, they basically approached me and said, you know, your husband's gone overboard, and
I don't know, man.
you know,
This bitch is
they told me
fishy
about
as
the blood
fuck.
on the awning. They
This
said he'd
bitch
gone
is
overboard.
fishy as fuck.
They found blood, and
The ship had sailed from the Greek island into Turkish waters. Jennifer was taken to the police station for questioning. With the little information that was available, she was immediately considered a suspect in what may have been foul play. At noon, Turkish authorities boarded the ship.
some of you may notice today, we have been a bit of unusual activity on board the ship. The crew and I have been working with the local authorities and some guests on board to investigate whether a person may have gone overboard last night, or I can say early this morning. We hope to have the issue resolved shortly.
They photographed room 9062 and took blood samples from the lifeboat canopy. The room was in disarray. It had either been rapidly searched through, purposefully trashed, or the scene of a struggle. There were blood droplets on the carpet and on a towel in the bathroom, both quite small. There was also what could be a handprint visible on the balcony railing. Turkish investigators also discovered two small bloodstains on the bedsheets, each only about 2 centimeters in length. Tests confirmed this was George's blood, as well as that on the lifeboat canopy below the balcony. It was enough to conclude that George had sustained some form of injury inside the room before his fall. A chair on the balcony had been shifted to sit right next to the railing. Also observed on the railing was an impression described as a butt mark made by the dew. This suggested to some, including the ship's captain, that George had been sitting on it and then perhaps fell off the side. But it was a tall railing, and the blood on the canopy and inside the room suggested something more had occurred. Foul play seemed
put his
most
butt
likely.
there and then you just kind of like shove him off the edge. You know?
Investigators set out to retrace George's movements the night before, leading up to the tragic incident. Specifically, they need to track down who he had been spending time with. 19-year-old Greg Rosenberg was on the cruise with family and friends. Amongst them was his cousin, Zach Rosenberg, and a friend, Rostolov Rusty Kaufman. The three men, all in their late teens, were naturalized American citizens of Russian descent. The families lived in New York. At the casino, Jennifer and Greg played poker together late into the evening. When it shut down at 2:30, the group moved on together, including all three of the Russians, as well as George, Jennifer, and Josh Askin. They went to the disco. They had also acquired one more into their happy party, a man named Lloyd Botha. Lloyd was a casino supervisor who joined the group as they continued on for some dancing and drinking. Here the timeline begins to diverge as individuals began to split off from the group. Josh returned to his cabin just after 3 a.m. to retrieve a special bottle of absinthe that he had purchased in Italy. The alcohol content in absinthe can range anywhere from 45 to over 70%. It is legal in Europe, but certain ingredients, including those with hallucinogenic qualities, are regulated. It is an extremely strong drink regardless. Passengers are not allowed to consume their own alcohol when on board. But George, having a bit of fun, helped the younger man to sneak the bottle aboard the ship by tucking it into the band of his shorts when they boarded the ship. Sometime after 3 a.m., a cleaner on staff noticed that the group of young men, Greg, Zach, and Rusty, alongside Josh and George, were all taking shots from a bottle of their own liquor, which they appeared to be trying, unsuccessfully, to keep concealed. And they were not the only ones getting tipsy. Jennifer, who had been observed at the casino composed and relatively sober, had turned visibly wobbly, leaning on the casino supervisor Lloyd either to keep her balance or flirtatiously. Witnesses reported perceiving her behavior very differently. The same was true for what happened next. George had words with his new wife, perhaps sternly because of her behavior, or jokingly due to joyful drinking. Jennifer kicked at George, maybe playfully, perhaps in anger. She called it a night after the encounter and left the disco. It was roughly 3:30 a.m. and Jennifer stumbled out. George was left behind with his new friends. When Turkish authorities boarded the ship to initiate their investigation, they made the bizarre choice to gather all the men together for joint questioning. The Russians explained how George had been inebriated the night before. They helped him back to his cabin, placed him in bed, removed his shoes, and left. This was at roughly 4 a.m.
And then we couldn't find her. She was gone. And then we came back to George's room and put him in bed.
They should be interrogating all these people separately. Look at them all looking at each other, trying to put the story together.
Close the door. We never saw him. Never saw him again. He said end story. That was it. Never saw him again.
Never saw him again. End story. End story.
Jennifer was not in the cabin when George was dropped off, they said. But she had left the party much earlier, so she definitely should have made it back to the cabin before her husband. It seems that Josh Askin had a suggestion which could explain Jennifer's absence. He claimed to have seen the casino worker, Lloyd, leave the disco with Jennifer the night before. They had been cozy with each other, Josh said, an assertion that was backed by both Zach Rosenberg and Rusty Kaufman, who believed that Jennifer was having a fling with Lloyd, even to the point of brazenly carrying on with him in front of George after the group had left the casino. When Josh was brought into the police station for further questions, he was emphatic that the authorities look into the relationship with Lloyd Botha. The implication was that Lloyd may have something to do with George's disappearance. His father videotaped the questioning for his own protection. The translator's child cried throughout.
You left the casino because he had drunk. You went to the club and you took George to the room. He was very drunk.
She was with another man.
Bir başka erkek miydi burada?
The casino manager, Lloyd. You need to get him in here.
The problem with Josh's theory of an affair was manifold. First, no one aside from Josh Askin and the Russians recalled seeing Lloyd leave with Jennifer that night. Lloyd's keycard records have him entering his own cabin at 3:25 a.m., a fact verified by his girlfriend who was awoken when he entered. Jennifer was found stumbling towards Deck 9 to find her cabin by the same cleaner that had observed the men drinking earlier. He assisted her to the elevator and watched as she turned right off of the lift when it reached her deck. The only problem was that her cabin was on the left. Jennifer was discovered sometime later, at 4:30 a.m., passed out asleep in the hallway, a considerable distance from her room. 2 security guards and a female supervisor used a wheelchair to deliver her back to her bed. When they entered the cabin at 4:52 a.m., George was not there. The curtains to the balcony doors were fully closed. They were also stationary, not blowing from the breeze, so the doors behind them were also closed. Had George gone out on the balcony on his own after his new friends had left him in his bed, would he have closed both the curtains and the door behind him when he stepped out?
No.
When Jennifer awoke the next morning, George was still not in bed. This was not as strange as one might think, though. She assumed that he had crashed out in a friend's cabin after being out all night. He had already done this only a few nights earlier on in their trip. Jennifer arose around 8 a.m. and left for her appointment at the spa. She was not concerned about her husband's whereabouts. There were several working theories of what had happened to George Smith. Captain Michael Lecteridis, having been informed of the passenger's excessive drinking and what he perceived was a mark of someone sitting on the balcony railing, determined that the death was an accident. George had slipped off. He explained away the blood inside the room by suggesting that perhaps George had experienced a minor nosebleed.
Yeah, Jade, you were hearing about these reports of hallucinations. How wide-ranging are they, and how severe could they be?
Well, that depends on the strength of the thujone. Now, you can buy absinthe in a lot of countries in Europe, but the European Union restricts the amount of thujone, the active ingredient, to 10 parts per million. So that's not very much. However, there is available a lot of black market absinthe, which people make in their own private stills, producing this stuff for sale on the black market, and that can be 5 or 10 times stronger. So you can actually get a much more strongly hallucinogenic product.
Do you think it could have played a role in this case somehow?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And any absinthe that is sold in Europe does not contain enough thujone to cause any hallucinations. I would have to consume about 3 liters of absinthe at the European limit to have any clinically discernible effects from thujone, and I'd be long dead from the alcohol by that point.
Both George and Jennifer appeared to have undergone a rapid decline in their sobriety over the period of only an hour the night before. Jennifer and George were observed as relatively composed as late as 2:30 a.m. when leaving the casino. But by 3:30 a.m., however, both were incapable of independently making it back to their rooms. Was it possible one or both of them had been drugged? In support of this theory were multiple accounts from casino goers that the newlyweds had been openly bragging about the amount of money they had back in their room, either from wedding gifts or from their casino winnings. The amounts mentioned by witnesses varied, but all in the tens of thousands. Were they targeted for a robbery? George wore a pricey Breitling watch, a gift from Jennifer and his best man. Jennifer's engagement and wedding ring also spoke to the potential wealth of the young couple. Had their room been trashed in an effort to locate this money? Money that, according to the Smith family, likely did not exist. Supporting this theory, however, were the very small marks of blood found on the bedsheet, which appeared consistent with scratches that could be made by roughly removing the wristband of George's new watch. The Turkish investigation had failed in the eyes of Jennifer Hagel-Smith and the rest of George's family. It was a rushed investigation that turned over little of use. The cruise line was told that it was appropriate to clean the scene of the potential crime only hours later. The stains were cleared away by the end of the day. Months later, with few answers, the Smiths hired Dr. Henry Lee, a forensic scientist, to conduct testing in the room and on the balcony. Tests that the original investigators never conducted and may offer insight into the crime or the likelihood that George had fallen accidentally.
Certainly you can see the height of the balcony. It's pretty clear that somebody will not just fall over that balcony. So either he was pushed, I'm talking about George Smith, of course, was either pushed or, in a stupor, he climbed up on a chair and fell over. But, there's a lot that argues against that.
Dr. Lee had wished to conduct another test involving a mannequin, which would seek to replicate a fall from the balcony. The Royal Caribbean Cruise Line refused to allow this particular test. The refusal was one of many obstacles that the Smith family felt the company was placing in the way of their efforts to find the truth.
We did conduct different experiments, measurement, study. We did check the cabin, the canopy, and the balcony. We did a couple of experiments, however, I'm not going to share with you the detail of the experiment. That's part of the agreement.
We investigate ourselves.
The FBI had also become involved,
nothing wrong.
although much of
Sounds
what
like
they
America.
uncovered was held from public view.
In a nutshell.
It was clear that their central focus was on the 4 younger men with George that night: Josh Askin and the 3 Russians, Greg and Zach Rosenberg and Rusty Kaufman. Much of their story did not align with what other witnesses on the ship had reported. Next door to the Smiths' cabin was Cleet Hyman, a deputy police chief on vacation with his wife. Cleet heard a disturbance in 1962, loud partying at first at just after 4 a.m. He called the guest relations desk to report the noise and also banged on the wall and shouted at the partiers. This was followed by several minutes of silence.
Then all we could hear was loud talking in the room for, probably 3 minutes. But then all of a sudden there became some very loud arguing out on the balcony. This went on for a couple of minutes, and then we heard someone
And this
saying
guy
that
just never came forward the fucking first day? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Is he fucking stupid? He could have just saved all of this heartbreak and anguish. What a dumb fuck. Come on, Rox. Talk about lack of fucking awareness, man. Oh my god. We're back.
Night, good night, just repeatedly, like they were trying to usher people out of the room. You could hear furniture being moved, and then at times it sounded like furniture was being actually picked up and dropped.
When these noises subsided, passengers heard a horrific thud.
Maybe 2 minutes or so of total silence, and then that horrific thud.
When Cleet opened his door to look out into the hallway, he recalls seeing 3 men, though he could not identify who they were. Several other passengers also reported hearing the loud noise, almost certainly the sound of George hitting the canopy. One witness reported hearing a woman scream immediately following. There is no evidence to indicate that a woman was in the room at that time. The 4 young men reported entering the room, but only 3 were seen in the hallway afterwards. Did one of these men stay behind to ransack the room? Perhaps in search of the thousands the Smiths were rumored to have. The theory of a robbery gone wrong seemed the most plausible. The young men, however, claimed to have a verifiable alibi. At 4:31 a.m., only minutes from the time that the 3 men were seen in the hallway outside of George's room, there was a call placed for room service from a room on deck 3, registered to one of the 3 Russians. The timing was so close between these events that it seemed improbable for both the deputy and the Russians to be telling the truth. Also, keycard records showed George's room was entered at 4:05 a.m., just as the Rosenbergs and Rusty had reported. It did not show the men re-entering the room. The Connecticut FBI case was later taken up by the New York office as the Smiths continued to apply pressure, largely through the massive media coverage that the case had been receiving. Meanwhile, their united front with George's new wife had crumbled. There had been scrutiny of Jennifer's behavior immediately following the incident, commentary that she appeared too composed in public, and suspicion surrounding the lack of information that she was willing to share.
I know you're doing your job and you have to ask, but again, my number one priority, and I'm going to say this again and again, is just, doing what the FBI has told me and basically,
The last straw for the Smiths came when Jennifer accepted an independent settlement in her lawsuit against Royal Caribbean for $1.1 million. In doing so, she would not move forward in a joint case against the cruise line with the Smiths, who were frustrated at the company's lack of transparency and their handling of the investigation with Turkish authorities. The Smiths were taking Jennifer to trial over her agreed settlement. The family alleged that their former daughter-in-law quickly settled with the cruise line to avoid embarrassing details about that night on the ship from becoming public. Jennifer argued that the family refused to acknowledge that their son's use of prescription drugs and alcohol may have caused an accidental fall.
He would have been a loyal father and husband to Jennifer Hagel for many years, and unfortunately, I am 100% convinced he was betrayed.
2.5 months after my son is dead, she comes to our house and has dinner, and across the table she says to me, "I want to get on with my life." I looked at her like, how can you do this to your husband? 2.5 months after his death, you don't want answers, you want to get on with your life?
It's clear that Jennifer's hiding something, so I think that in this case, it was in Jen's best interest to settle so that the truth did not come out.
Jennifer Hagel Smith claimed to remember little to nothing that took place after about 2:30 a.m. that night. She was unaware that she had been found in the hallway or brought back to her room by cruise staff. Jennifer was given a polygraph test by the FBI. So was the accused casino manager, Lloyd Botha. They both passed. Josh Askin and the Russians were also given polygraphs. The FBI informed Josh Askin that he had failed his, but it's unclear if that is the case or was a tactic to prompt further information from him. A videotape recorded by the Russians on the afternoon of George's death recorded the 3 men callously joking about what had occurred. The tape is in the possession of the FBI, and they have released only brief statements from it, but these are incriminating. At one point in the video, one of the men, left unidentified, clearly states, "We gave that guy a paragliding lesson without a parachute." In 2009, all 4 of the men were deposed as eyewitnesses in the questionable death investigation. Zach Rosenberg was asked what he knew about the death of George Smith.
I'd like to invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
Do you know if George Smith was murdered?
I'd like to invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
Do you know who killed George Smith?
I'd like to invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
Do you have a belief as to how George Smith died?
I would like to invoke my Fifth Amendment.
The questioning of Josh Askin went in a similar manner. He invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Josh, who had eagerly pointed the finger at the casino manager the day after George went missing, also insisted that he was in the cabin bathroom while Zach and Rusty looked after George. He did not see where in the room George was when he said goodbye and left. The implication, of course, is that if something had happened during that time, it did not involve him.
My Fifth Amendment right.
Were you present when George Smith was killed?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
Did you play a part in the death of George Smith?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
There was one of the group that was less close-lipped about the events of that night, however, Greg Rosenberg. Giving his deposition from a Florida state prison where he was serving a 3-year sentence for drug trafficking, Greg was happy to share his thoughts.
Because I want to know what happened that night, honestly. Because I already explained to you, I've been through it and back, accused of nothing. And that's the honest truth. Now, I'm not sitting in front of this camera and say accused of something that I, through people in my neighborhood in Boca Raton and on the internet, and they blast my name. For what? Because I chose to try to help. That's why I want to know. I'd like to know. I wish I was good in law because I'd make a point of it.
What would you ask Jennifer if you could?
Why she left, and where was she, and how do you end up in the spa, and then you say you had passed out in the solarium, and then whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that go through your head in the last 4 or 5 years since that happened. We all grew up. You know what I'm saying?
So something from that night just doesn't make sense.
None of it does. None of it makes sense.
Do you think Jennifer was involved?
No comment. No comment.
How about Lloyd Botha?
No comment. I can't incriminate individuals that I don't know, but I know George Allen Smith did not disappear or kill himself or hurt himself or slip and fall off the boat at 6'4" or however tall he is and just dive off. I know that didn't happen. So something crazy went down that night. And I hope one day that they find out the truth.
Greg restated the claim that the group had room service that night, a key element of the alibi that the men had relied on. The central issue with this claim, however, is that service logs from the ship did not show this order. Additionally, the group had been formally banned from using this service the day prior, after more than one profanity-laced phone call to room service had resulted in a visit by ship security. The cruise line has no record of any order being delivered. Quite the opposite. They had the statements of multiple staff who had been instructed prior to that night to refuse the men's service.
Who ordered the room service?
I remember what we ate, but I don't remember who ordered it.
All right, what'd you eat?
Tuna fish sandwiches, I know that. We had like tuna fish sandwiches and
I
think with cheeseburgers. I know we had something like that fast food type.
How long did it take for the food to show up, do you know?
No, I don't remember that.
Was it like 20 minutes?
Teleport out.
Probably, that's what it takes. It's pretty quiet at night, so they probably delivered it fast.
But you figure burger and stuff, they gotta cook it, so.
Yeah, tuna. I think it was mainly just tuna fish sandwiches with Swiss cheese and.
Okay. This now, did George and Jennifer actually seem to be happy? Because this is also in Josh's statement, and Josh, you know, from what we can tell, didn't think they were happy.
He's so drastic, man. Dramatic type dude, man. I never seen no unhappiness. They were both so drunk and happy. That's how I looked at it.
One final claim from Josh Askin was that Greg Rosenberg had left the room after the group ordered food.
Food Fest was going on. Did you leave the room?
No, not that I remember, no.
Because Josh claims that at some point you left the room. Never left the room. You were always there.
I was chilling.
Okay. All right. Do you know why he would say that?
I don't know. Left the room.
In December 2019, Greg Rosenberg was murdered while parked in his car in his own driveway in Davie, Florida. Police believe that he was ambushed and that he was purposefully targeted. There had been no attempt at a robbery and several shots fired.
He was shot multiple times,
Fucking with
and
those
the
Russians,
suspect
man.
fled the area. We believe in a white SUV BMW X3, X5 series, possibly driven by someone else, and they fled the neighborhood.
Rosenberg may have taken the truth of what happened to Smith with him when he died, and Davie police are hoping to find the truth behind his murder case now.
We've been investigating this case since it started, and we won't stop until it's solved.
Investigators have explored the possibility of a link between the death of George Smith and the much later murder of Greg Rosenberg. His murder remains unsolved. The Smith family later came to believe that their son fell victim to a robbery gone wrong. In the years since, they have abandoned their suspicions of Jennifer Hagel. They managed to renegotiate the amount paid out in the lawsuit against Royal Caribbean, increasing Jennifer's $1.1 million to $1.3 million and splitting the amount amongst the family. Included in this deal was an agreement to hand over the cruise line's investigative file on the disappearance, which included witness statements made to the cruise line and to Turkish authorities by those who saw George before he went missing. Jennifer has remarried and started a family. She has made a career working for charities and other nonprofits, and her family is grateful she was able to move on. For George's sister Bree and his parents, moving on with so few answers and such little closure has been nearly impossible.
I think, foremost in our mind is who would have done this and why. We don't know any of those things right now. There haven't been any arrests. We know the FBI has a lot of information, but we don't have that information. And we just want to know what happened to him. And secondly, I think we'd like to know where he is. I mean, I think we have an idea, but if we had at least George, we could bury him and have a grave to visit and pray for him. But instead, he's in the middle of the sea and we don't have anything of him.
Yeah, he was.
So it's really devastating for my family.
After the cruise liner's documents failed to reveal George's murderer, the Smiths offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and convictions of those responsible. They have also called for a boycott on Royal Caribbean, who they say have actively covered up the murder in favor of their company profits. The disappearance of George Smith remains unsolved. Thanks for watching. I'm Kevin.
This
is Just Thought Lounge,
Those rich
and I'll see you in
Chinese
the next
fuckers
one.
don't play.
In the spring of 2006, 19-year-old college student Jessica O'Grady went missing
Bro, she looks like Kristen Dunn. Holy shit.
late one evening in Omaha, Nebraska. Jessica had been on her way to see her boyfriend and stay the night. But according to him, she never arrived. Days would pass as panic spread from her friends and family to the broader community. It became increasingly clear that Jessica had met with foul play.
Okay, I gotta
Law
take another
enforcement were
piss.
convinced that they had narrowed in on the killer. But unable to
me
find
some more money.
Jessica and lacking any details of what exactly happened to her,
80 mil almost.
their case was too weak to make an arrest. Or was it? Hi everyone, I'm Kevin and this is Just Thought Lounge. JTL is the true crime channel that
What's up, Douglas? How you doing? Yo, OPU, dude. I'm about to play some, well, later I'm playing some zombies with my homeboy in the chat, Zombie. So, yeah, make sure to tune into the stream later tonight, bro. We're doing a custom map. Should be fun, you know? I've been getting into, I don't know what it is. I've been getting into customs. Make sure to check her out, bro. You've been saying, though, man, what's new? What's going on in the life? You here for it? Respect. What's going on in the life? I just had to go do a police check today. I've never done a police check before in my life. Good luck on Pet. Yeah, respect. We just here. Let me. I forget you play RuneScape. Let me check right here. We were just checking. I made 79.6 mil so far. You know, 8 heads, 523 KC, almost 1,000 on the dot. Black Dragon Hide. That's pretty nuts. I was thinking of buying a Dragon Hunter Lance and just changing it up and doing some melee once in a while. That way it stays fresh. And I can always just sell the fucking DHL for more or whatever later, right?
delivers serious, well-balanced coverage of the cases that really make investigation wild. I would have you lounge. JTL is the true crime channel that delivers serious, well-balanced coverage of the cases that really make you think. You may think you know what happened in the case of Jessica O'Grady, but this investigation was not as clear-cut as the media at the time would have you believe. The more evidence that was compiled, the more confused the case became. This case may be solved, but many questions still remain. Let's take a look.
Coke's up.
After graduating high school in Omaha, Nebraska, 19-year-old Jessica O'Grady stayed close to home. She moved into an apartment with 2 friends and began waitressing at a local Lone Star restaurant while enrolling in courses at the University of Nebraska. Jessica was a sophomore majoring in social studies and aspired to become a teacher. After taking a second part-time job at a daycare, Jessica had realized how passionate she was for childhood education. She even volunteered to coach her niece's softball team. In the spring of 2006, Jessica was taking a semester off of her studies, preferring to work and earn some extra cash. She was also taking some time to enjoy her social life. After a 1.5-year-long high school relationship had ended, Jessica was free to pursue other relationships and to fall for a new man. Christopher Edwards worked alongside Jessica as a bartender at the Lone Star in Omaha. Christopher had also attended the University of Nebraska, but he had dropped out of college in favor of making more money at work. Chris worked a lot of hours at the restaurant. He was aiming for a promotion into management. In the meantime, he lived with his Aunt Jane, where a separate entrance and the basement all to himself afforded him a bit of independence. Christopher could come and go as he pleased, and he had some privacy. Christopher took full advantage of this arrangement. He and Jessica, hitting it off at work, began seeing each other. It had only been a few months, but in early May 2006, Jessica delivered to Christopher the happy news.
She's pregnant.
She was pregnant.
Oh my god. Not too happy for him, I bet.
On Friday, the 12th of May, 2006, Jessica did not turn up for her scheduled shift at the Lone Star. By this time, friends and family members had been trying and failing to connect with Jessica since Thursday morning.
Shit, wrong attack.
Slowly, it began to emerge that no one in Jessica's life had seen or heard from her throughout that time. Odd behavior from a friend, niece, and daughter that kept in regular, nearly daily contact.
Excuse me.
Jessica's family notified the police. Her aunt, Shauna Stanzel, with whom Jessica was very close, had last seen her niece after a softball game on Wednesday evening, the 10th of May. But Jessica failed to show at the next game, scheduled on the following Sunday. Shauna had been trying to speak to as many of Jessica's friends as possible to locate her, and she was coming up empty. Even more frightening was the fact that Jessica had not picked up her latest paycheck. Her personal effects remained in her room in the shared apartment, and her cat Zoe, who she called her baby, had also been seemingly abandoned. Things were not adding up. Although Jessica's phone, purse, and car were all missing, there was no way the cheerful, expectant mother had left voluntarily. Nearly a week after Jessica was last seen, her small hatchback, a Hyundai Accent, was found by a local businessman in a parking lot across the street from the restaurant where she worked. The keys were missing. The car was dusted for fingerprints and swabbed for DNA, but nothing was found. There was also no indication that Jessica had driven the vehicle there, nor any cameras in the area that could have captured the vehicle or its driver. The recovery of the car heightened the stakes of the investigation, which was now a formal criminal probe. Law enforcement gained access to Jessica's phone logs and began to track her last known movements. A handful of friends had gathered at Jessica's apartment on the evening of Wednesday, the 10th of May, the last day that anyone saw Jessica. The group chatted and ate some pizza. According to friends, Jessica was texting throughout the evening. She had also been talking about Christopher Edwards. Jessica was optimistic about her relationship and her pregnancy. She had started on prenatal vitamins. She was excited to become a mother. After Jessica received a telephone call later that night, she took a shower, fixed her hair, put on makeup, and left the apartment. This was at about 11 or 11:15 p.m. Her destination? The home of Christopher Edwards. It was a roughly 8-mile drive out to the suburb where Christopher lived. Jessica's last phone activity showed a call to her friend Carrie at about 11:30 p.m., followed by a phone call to Christopher roughly 20 minutes later. On the 11:30 call, Jessica informed her friend that she was en route to Christopher's. The last text message Jessica sent was also to Carrie at 12:20 a.m. It read, "No shenanigans for Jessica." According to Carrie, this was a code the girls used for when hooking up with boys. She understood this message to mean this was not happening for Jessica that night. But she did not reply, and her calls the next morning went unanswered. Every call to Jessica after that time was forwarded direct to her voicemail. Her last banking transactions occurred earlier that day. It was the last time anyone had heard from Jessica O'Grady. Extensive searches undertaken by law enforcement and supported by masses of volunteers beginning in the days following her disappearance turned up no signs of Jessica.
His family is still wondering where she is.
You know, you just have to try to keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Isn't that from like
the tree-covered and rocky terrain of the surrounding area presented a challenge for search parties, as well as ample opportunities for a killer to potentially dispose of a body. More than 150 acres surrounding Cunningham Lake were covered by the search efforts. The mud bars and sandy shorelines along the Elkhorn River were scanned, and volunteers divided into organized search parties navigated large rocks and slippery slopes. While these efforts were underway, Christopher Edwards was spending the weekend with his girlfriend. Not Jessica O'Grady, of course, but his longtime girlfriend, a woman named Michelle Wilkin. Michelle met Christopher while they were working at the same restaurant in March 2005. They became friends, then developed a romantic relationship. By January 2006, Michelle had become pregnant. The relationship was ostensibly exclusive. According to Michelle, on the evening of May 8th, only 2 days before Jessica went missing, Michelle and Christopher had discussed plans to be married. At not quite 20 years old, working as a bartender and living in his aunt's basement, Christopher Edwards was about to become the father of 2 children from 2 different women. Michelle, whom he planned to marry, was completely unaware of his relationship with Jessica O'Grady. She certainly was not aware that Jessica was also expecting his baby. She spent the days following Jessica's disappearance with Christopher in his basement bedroom, oblivious to the extensive searches taking place from that house in a mile radius outwards for Jessica. When Shauna Stansel began looking for her niece, she stopped by the Lone Star restaurant and spoke to several employees, including Christopher Edwards. Christopher told her that he had no idea where Jessica was. In fact, he had not seen her since Tuesday the 9th. He said the two had plans for the Wednesday night, but those had fallen through. He did not see Jessica that night after all. This was the same version of events Christopher then told the police when they arrived at his home and requested, with his permission, to have a look around. On this initial visit, officers did not have a warrant, so any areas that Christopher did not wish to be searched would be avoided, they said. Although he preferred for them to come back in a few days, Christopher eventually consented to a controlled search. Controlled by him, of course. Officers began scanning around his room. But as they approached his bed, Christopher spoke up. There was no need for them to look at the mattress, he said. The detective on scene proposed the theory that Jessica had committed suicide. Since the couple had been together only days earlier, perhaps she chose to hide a note under the mattress of his bed. According to police reports, Christopher replied that this logic made sense to him, and so the search continued. Christopher explained that a small stain of blood on top of the mattress was menstrual blood, but when police lifted the mattress, they found a stain covering most of the bottom side of the mattress.
He's just sleeping on that?
A formal search warrant was obtained for the house, and a full forensic processing of the area was undertaken.
That's fucking foul.
Over the next 10 hours, the house was inspected thoroughly by the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, though the investigation had been initially launched by the Omaha PD. The inspection was overseen by Chief Crime Scene Investigator David Kofod, who led the CSI unit for Douglas County.
Ooh, we're fucking him here.
Kofod had a reputation as a star CSI supervisor, having recently cleverly discovered key evidence in high-profile murder cases in adjoining counties. Christopher Edwards himself was processed. They took hairs, fingerprints, nail clippings, and DNA swabs. Nearly 200 photos were taken inside the house that night, detailing the basement bedroom, the walls, the ceiling, and other areas, including the garage. In the bedroom, blood spatter, some of which was visible to the naked eye, was documented throughout the area surrounding the bed. Christopher explained that he had cut his wrist a few days earlier. That injury accounted for these stains, he said. Luminol was applied to the walls of the room. Stains were found on the ceiling. These stains and those on the walls had been haphazardly and ineffectively covered up by white paint. The blood found throughout the room was a DNA match to Jessica O'Grady. Pillows and sheets from the bed had been removed and replaced. The mattress had been flipped. Scented candles had been lit throughout. A sweet scent was left lingering in the air. It was not a thorough cleanup job, but it was undeniably an attempt to conceal what had happened to Jessica O'Grady in that room. A black plastic trash bag was found in the garage next to Christopher's car. The bag contained 2 blood-stained towels and a receipt from a drugstore in West Omaha. Investigators sourced surveillance footage from that shop and captured Christopher at the drugstore just past 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 11th. There he purchased poster paint, white shoe polish, and correction fluid. The poster paint was chemically identical to that found on his bedroom ceiling. Christopher Edwards voluntarily turned himself into the police, but he was not formally charged. There were gaps in the case against him. Jessica had not been found, nor had any potential murder weapon. By the time that the mattress was discovered in Christopher's room, there had been nearly a week lead time for the disposal of evidence. The amount of blood found in the house indicated that Jessica had not left the property alive. This raised questions as to how Christopher could have moved her from the house. There were only two ways out of the basement. The storm window was too narrow to lift her through, so this left the staircase.
The 135-pound kid did not carry her out of there alone. There was no drippings, no drag marks, and so he had help.
Somebody who knows where Jessica O'Grady's body is, and knowing that there's a human being out there who would not have the empathy to come forward and tell the sheriff's department where she's at is probably the most difficult part to deal with, other than the loss that we deal with every day.
Douglas County Sheriff's Department knew they had their man, but they did not have a clear theory of the crime to present for an indictment. The state of Nebraska had never obtained a murder conviction without locating the body of the victim. The CSI team under the leadership of David Kofod returned to the house once more. Miraculously, and fortunately for the investigation, upon this re-examination, Kofod discovered two small blots of dried blood in the upper trunk frame of Christopher's car. One small stain was taken from the upper gas casket, exactly where it could not be visible from any angle unless one was directly inside the trunk. The second was on the underside of the trunk lid. Two previous CSI team members had searched the vehicle and missed it. Even more crucially, Kofod discovered in the closet of Christopher's bedroom a pair of Bangkok ceremonial swords, referred to in the media as samurai swords. Somehow, these swords had been overlooked during the original search, but now they were pegged as the likely murder weapon. Several other small knives were also obtained for testing from this second search. Lab tests were conducted at the University of Nebraska and returned a series of results that would prove to be the turning point in the investigation. First, the small dried samples taken from the trunk of Christopher's car returned a positive match to Jessica O'Grady. A small stain, potentially blood, was swabbed from the handle of one of the ceremonial swords. This also matched to Jessica. Testing on the tip of this sword identified Jessica's DNA. Pruning shears retrieved during the first search were then retested at the instruction of David Kofod. He had a feeling about them. They had originally tested negative for any DNA, but this time they also returned a match to Jessica. DNA was found on the handle, but no blood was on them at all. Investigators determined that the sword must have been the murder weapon. From the DNA and blood spatter evidence, detectives deduced that Jessica was attacked while she slept on Christopher's bed on the night of May 10th. Christopher subsequently carried her up the stairs and into the garage, then into his vehicle and disposed of her body in an unknown location. He later drove her vehicle to the parking lot near to the restaurant and abandoned it. How the pruning shears factored into the theory of the murder remained entirely unclear. Furthermore, there were no signs of cleaning products having been used in the trunk of the car. Yet somehow, it was spotless, with the exception of the hidden samples identified by Kofod. The sword, the assumed murder weapon, was likewise remarkably clean. Christopher Edwards was charged with the murder of Jessica O'Grady. At that time, a plea deal was offered to him in exchange for revealing where he left Jessica. This deal would have seen the 19-year-old sentenced to 10 to 20 years and eligible for parole as quickly as 5 years into serving his term. Christopher could easily have been released before his 30th birthday, but he rejected the offer. His father, Bob Edwards, was reportedly so convinced that a jury could not convict his son of murder without a body that he compelled his son to reject any offer made to serve less time.
It feels like, although she is not alive, that her remains are held hostage, and that doesn't seem fair to us.
The trial commenced in late March 2007. Michelle Wilkin, now mother to their baby daughter, took the stand in Christopher's defense. She testified that she had no idea about the state of the mattress when she stayed with Christopher in the days following Jessica's disappearance. She had been, at the time, completely unaware of any relationship between Jessica and Christopher. Christopher's Aunt Jane and his teenage cousin both testified that they were at home on the night of May 10th and heard no noise emanating from the basement in the night. But the blood evidence on the mattress, ceiling, and walls was damning. Christopher's defense attorney, Stephen Leffler, somewhat absurdly maintained Christopher's original explanations for the bloodstains, assertions that were thought to be received as insulting to the jury. What Leffler failed to argue were the inconsistencies in the state's version of events. How was it possible that the ceremonial sword was the murder weapon, yet contained only a tiny fragment of blood on the handle? Surely there would have been more left behind, particularly given the ornate design of the sword. Why would Christopher have left it in the bedroom closet for weeks instead of disposing of it alongside the other evidence, or even after the police suspected him of murder? Assuming the theory was accurate, Christopher also disposed of Jessica's phone, wallet, clothing, as well as his clothing, and all of the original bedding. Why do this while leaving the murder weapon in his closet? And if all he did was flip the mattress and apply light layers of correction fluid to his walls, how did he leave only 2 fragments of blood in the trunk of his car? The jury deliberated for 11 hours before returning a verdict.
Did his dad help him?
Guilty of murder in the 2nd degree, as well as use of a deadly weapon. It was the first no-body murder trial in the state's history to end in a guilty verdict.
Thankful for the men and women who were able to sit on the jury and deliver a verdict that objectively stated what we've believed all along.
Christopher Edwards was sentenced to a term of 80 years to life imprisonment for 2nd-degree murder, and a term of 20 years imprisonment on the deadly weapon conviction, sentences to be served consecutively.
I said the fine work from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office and their CSI people, and the work that they did at that scene and preserving that for the jury. They did a tremendous job.
80 years
and we felt very comfortable, and there was never any doubt in our minds about that evidence.
The search for Jessica continued for years following the conviction. Thousands of hours had gone into the effort. There were 46 different missions. Not-for-profit groups became involved, and a full 5-mile radius of his aunt's home had been scoured. A hole was discovered in the area of Cunningham Lake. It was speculated that Christopher had begun to dig this hole, perhaps with the single shovel found with Christopher's car and the shears, but was unable to create a substantial hole, so it was abandoned. This theory holds that after this attempt, he left Jessica in the water. Christopher was not providing any information. His father's home was searched extensively.
Investigators worked around the home of O'Grady's killer's father, Robert Edwards, there in the early afternoon, but left shortly after our cameras arrived. Deputies and forensic experts taping off the back, carrying buckets and shovels, focusing efforts behind dark curtains.
What did the cadaver dog alert you to?
That there could be a body. But right now, it's anything that we do find, we'll bag and tag it and take a look at it further with microscopes back at the lab.
A new back deck that had been constructed in the weeks following Jessica's disappearance was dug up, then reconstructed when law enforcement discovered absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely. We found rock is what we found, rock and concrete in a mass, and it was in the exact location and depth that we saw on the charts. We'll lick our wounds, we'll continue our investigation, and go on from there.
Bob Edwards had also come under scrutiny earlier on. It seems likely that Christopher had not covered up the crime independently. He must have had assistance lifting Jessica and disposing of her car, if nothing else. But there was never a DNA match made to his father, Robert, nor any other substantial link made to an accomplice. When Christopher appeared in court to appeal his conviction, he was a changed man.
Look at his hair.
Longer hair and crude tattoos showed the many years he had already spent in prison. His first appeal in 2011 coincided with another related development. In that same year, another Douglas County resident was serving time in prison. David Kofod. The CSI supervisor and star of the Douglas County investigative team had been convicted of manufacturing evidence. Prior to his conviction, he had become famous in Nebraska for being able to find evidence when no one else could. Then, in 2 separate murder cases in neighboring Cass County, earlier in the same year that Jessica went missing, Kofod's miraculous discoveries came into question. He was found to have planted blood samples in key locations at crime scenes and in areas where law enforcement hoped to discover damning evidence. In one of these cases, detectives lacked any physical evidence against their key suspects. This was the case of Wayne and Charbon Stock, who were found viciously murdered in their Nebraska farmhouse, apparently killed on Easter Sunday, 2006. In a process that seemed to mirror that of Jessica's case, the suspect's car was searched thoroughly by other forensic experts, finding nothing of value. Then, just as the momentum of the case slowed to a halt, Kofod decided to re-examine a specific hidden area of the console of the suspect's car. There, he found the DNA of the victim, linking the suspects to the crime. Kofod's placement of blood samples was discovered when additional evidence, including a confession, proved definitively that these suspects were innocent of the murders. A generous assessment of the blood found in Christopher's car suggests it was a small transfer stain. More likely, it was the result of a diluted blood sample blotted onto the interior of the trunk by David Kofod. If Jessica had been placed in that location after she was attacked, investigators would have expected the removal of the interior rug to reveal far more staining.
Someone else examined the car besides Kofod?
Somebody had examined the car the day before Kofod. 2 Douglas County sheriffs did it just like they had in the Murdoch case.
They didn't find anything?
Didn't find anything.
Likewise, the small sample on the sword appears to have been falsely sourced. The spatter in the room indicated that a much smaller weapon was used. It was speculated at the time that, without the forensic evidence retrieved by David Kofod in the second search of the house, the state may have delayed or outright refused to bring charges against Christopher Edwards. In fact, this was the stalled state of the case against Christopher until Kofod re-examined the scene.
Yo.
The Court of Appeals, however, determined that regardless of Christopher's claims of false evidence, there was enough to prove his guilt.
Prove that the evidence was fabricated, that it was a violation of substantive due process.
Which part of the evidence? Not the mattress?
Not the mattress.
If you take this evidence out as if it had never been presented to a jury, would he still have been convicted? And the answer is absolutely yes.
Christopher Edwards' first appeal in 2012 and later plea for a new trial in 2016 were denied. His secondary motion in 2018 also failed. Had he taken the plea deal, he would have likely already been released. David Kofod, after serving roughly 18 months in prison on a potential 4-year sentence, maintains that he did not plant any evidence in the Jessica O'Grady case, or in any other.
That judge thinks they did not prove I planted evidence. There's no way. There was no way you could prove that. I've been to the parole board twice and told them, I don't have anything to be remorseful about. I can jam this time and I will.
There has been no real closure for Shauna Stansel or the rest of
crazy.
Jessica's family and her many close friends. Jessica has not been found.
You don't forget the day.
To the dead. Well, wouldn't you look at that? Gotta do an update.
Being referred to a realtor by friends or family is great if you don't mind missing out on top dollar at selling as quickly as possible.
Just past 7:30 p.m. at a busy Costco.
Fuck, I think I'm gonna end my stream there, boys. I'll be live in a bit. Talk to y'all later.